Ryan Cole's life changed forever the moment the ocean wind betrayed him. One second, he was a struggling single father watching his 6-year-old build sandcastles. The next, he was accidentally staring at his boss, the most intimidating woman in corporate America, topless on a public beach. Ava Sterling, the ice queen who'd made grown men cry in boardrooms, stood frozen as their eyes met. Ryan's career, his daughter's future, everything he'd fought for since the divorce, all of it crashing down because of one horrifying, unavoidable moment. This is the story of how the worst day of his life became the beginning of something extraordinary. Before we dive into Ryan's impossible situation, drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. The morning started like every other Saturday in Ryan Cole's carefully managed chaos. Badly. "Daddy, you forgot to pack my floaties." Mia's voice pierced through the apartment at 6:47 a.m., exactly 13 minutes before Ryan's alarm was set to go off. He jolted awake on the couch where he'd passed out after finishing the Hendricks report, his laptop still warm against his thigh, drool crusted on the corner of his mouth. "They're in the beach bag, sweetie," he mumbled, his voice thick with exhaustion. 3 hours of sleep. Again. That made it 4 nights in a row. "No, they're not. I checked." Ryan dragged himself upright, every muscle in his 34-year-old body protesting like he was twice that age. The divorce had aged him. No, that wasn't fair. The divorce, the sole custody, the impossible job, the constant juggling act of being everything to everyone while feeling like he was failing at all of it. That's what had aged him. He found the floaties exactly where Mia said they weren't, buried under 3 towels and a bottle of sunscreen that had probably expired during the Obama administration. The beach bag was a disaster, much like everything else in his life since Jennifer left. "Found them," he called out, too cheerfully. The forced enthusiasm that had become his default setting around Mia. Never let her see the cracks. Never let her know that Daddy was barely holding it together. Mia appeared in the doorway of her bedroom, already wearing her bathing suit, the purple one with the sparkly starfish that she'd insisted on for 3 weeks straight until Ryan finally caved and bought it, even though it cost more than he usually spent on groceries for a week. Her dark hair, so much like Jennifer's, was a tangled mess that would require negotiations and possibly bribery to comb through. "Can we get ice cream at the beach?" Those big brown eyes, the ones that could make him agree to just about anything. "We'll see," Ryan said, which both of them knew meant yes. "You always say, 'we'll see,' when you mean yes," Mia giggled, launching herself at him for a hug. At 6 years old, she was getting too big to carry everywhere, but Ryan scooped her up anyway, breathing in the strawberry shampoo smell of her hair. These moments, the uncomplicated joy of his daughter's love, were the only things keeping him sane. By 8:30 a.m., they were finally out the door. By 9:15, they were stuck in traffic on the I-95, the air conditioning in Ryan's 12-year-old Honda struggling against the Florida heat. By 10:30, they were at Clearwater Beach, and Ryan was already regretting every decision that had led to this moment. The beach was packed. Of course it was. Perfect weather, weekend, summer. What had he expected? Finding parking took another 20 minutes, and by the time they'd hauled all their gear across the scorching sand, Ryan was sweating through his t-shirt and questioning his life choices. "Here," Mia proclaimed, dropping her plastic bucket and shovel in a random spot that looked identical to every other spot on the beach. "Little further from the water, Mia Bean," Ryan suggested, eyeing the tide line. The last thing he needed was to spend the afternoon chasing their belongings into the Atlantic. They compromised on a spot that satisfied neither of them, parenting in a nutshell. Ryan spread out their faded beach blanket, the one with the cartoon turtles that Jennifer had bought during their honeymoon in Maui. He should have thrown it out. Should have thrown out a lot of things. But somehow, the blanket remained. A ghost of a happier time that now just smelled like mildew no matter how many times he washed it. "Sunscreen," he announced, wielding the bottle like a weapon. "No!" Mia's protest was immediate and dramatic. "It's cold and sticky and gross, and it keeps you from turning into a lobster. Come here, you little wiggle worm." The sunscreen battle took 10 minutes. By the end of it, both of them were covered in white streaks, and Ryan was pretty sure he'd lost at least a year off his life from stress. But Mia was protected, and that was what mattered. Everything he did, every exhausting, impossible thing was for her. Can I go to the water now? Please, please, please. Ryan glanced at the ocean, then at the growing crowd of beachgoers. Stay where I can see you. Don't go deeper than your knees. And if anyone talks to me, I scream and run to you. I know, Daddy. Mia rolled her eyes with the exasperation of someone who'd heard this lecture 1,000 times. Because she had. He watched her run toward the gentle waves, her little legs pumping, arms windmilling with pure joy. For a moment, just a brief, shining moment, Ryan felt something like peace. She was happy. She was safe. Maybe, just maybe, he was doing okay at this whole single dad thing. His phone buzzed. Work. Of course it was work. From Ava. Sterling. Subject. Hendricks report. Monday. Presentation. Ryan reviewed your preliminary analysis. We need to discuss several revisions before the client meeting. Monday, 7 a.m., my office. Don't be late. Ryan's stomach dropped. 7 a.m. on Monday meant 5 a.m. wake up to get Mia ready and dropped at his neighbor Mrs. Chen's place before school. It meant another impossible morning in a string of impossible mornings. It meant facing Ava Sterling, the woman who'd made senior executives weep openly during quarterly reviews. Ava Sterling. Even her name sounded sharp, like it could cut you. In 3 years at Sterling and Associates, Ryan had learned to dread the sight of her emails, the click of her heels in the hallway, the way her ice blue eyes could freeze you mid-sentence when you said something she deemed insufficiently brilliant. She was a legend in the industry, built her consulting firm from nothing into a powerhouse that had Fortune 500 companies begging for her expertise. Brilliant, ruthless, and utterly terrifying. The woman didn't seem to have a life outside of work, which meant she expected everyone else to follow suit. She'd never been married, had no kids, probably had ice water in her veins and a calculator for a heart. Ryan had seen her make a VP cry during a presentation last month. The poor guy had mixed up 2 data points, and Ava had eviscerated him with surgical precision, her voice never rising above a conversational tone, which somehow made it worse. Ryan had wanted to intervene, to say something, but he had Mia to think about. He couldn't afford to lose this job. Couldn't afford to end up on Ava Sterling's bad side. So he stayed quiet, kept his head down, and tried to be invisible. It was working so far. He was competent enough to keep his job, invisible enough to avoid her notice. A perfect, unsustainable balance. He typed back a response. I'll be there. Thank you for the feedback. Professional, respectful, devoid of any personality that might offend her. Ryan pocketed his phone and leaned back on his elbows, trying to recapture that brief moment of peace. The sun was warm on his face. The sound of the waves was soothing. Mia was giggling as she splashed in the shallows. This was good. This was, Daddy! Daddy, look what I found! Mia came racing back, dripping wet, clutching something in her small fist. A piece of sea glass, pale green and smoothed by the ocean. That's beautiful, sweetie. Can we build a castle and put it on top, like a jewel? Absolutely. Let's build the biggest castle this beach has ever seen. They spent the next hour in the sand, Mia directing operations like a tiny, tyrannical architect, while Ryan did the actual heavy lifting. The castle was lopsided and structurally unsound, but it was theirs. Mia decorated it with shells and the sea glass, narrating an elaborate story about a princess who lived there with her dragon and definitely didn't need to be rescued because she could rescue herself, thank you very much. Ryan's heart swelled. This kid, this perfect, weird, wonderful kid. She made everything worth it. I'm thirsty, Mia announced, abandoning the castle without ceremony. And hungry and hot. Ryan checked his watch. 12:30. Lunchtime. What do you want? We've got sandwiches, apple slices, and I want a hot dog from the stand. Of course she did. Ryan calculated the cost in his head. The beach vendor hot dogs were criminally overpriced. But Mia had been so good this morning, and he'd been promising her this beach day for weeks. 1 hot dog? Coming up. Stay right here on the blanket, okay? Okay. Ryan headed toward the cluster of food stands near the parking lot, joining the line of sunburned tourists and locals. The wait was long. By the time he'd gotten Mia's hot dog, and yes, she wanted everything on it, 15 minutes had passed. He turned to head back, and that's when his entire world tilted sideways. There, maybe 30 feet away, was a woman who looked impossibly, devastatingly familiar. Tall, athletic build, dark hair pulled back in a way that was more practical than styled. She was wearing a simple black one-piece bathing suit with a sheer white beach wrap tied loosely around her waist. She was reaching into a beach bag, her back to him, but something about the way she moved, the set of her shoulders. No, it couldn't be. The woman turned slightly, and Ryan's heart stopped. Ava Sterling, his boss, the Ice Queen herself. Here, at the same beach, looking like an actual human person instead of a corporate-suited nightmare. Ryan's first instinct was to run. Just turn around, grab Mia, and get the hell out of there before... Ava straightened up, pulling out a bottle of sunscreen. She was completely unaware of his presence, focused on her task. There was something different about her here, something softer. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her hair was slightly messy in a way it never was at the office. She looked almost peaceful. Ryan knew he should leave, should look away, should absolutely not stand here like a creep watching his boss on her personal time. But his feet seemed to have forgotten how to work. He was frozen, hot dog in hand, staring at the impossible sight of Ava Sterling doing something as mundane as going to the beach. Then the wind picked up. It happened in slow motion, the kind of moment that gets seared into your memory with perfect, horrifying clarity. A strong gust of ocean wind came from nowhere, sudden and powerful. Ava's beach wrap, loosely tied, caught the full force of it. The knot gave way instantly. The sheer fabric billowed and flew, exposing her completely from the waist up. For one terrible, frozen second, Ava Sterling stood topless on Clearwater Beach, her arms still at her sides, her face registering shock. And Ryan Cole, holding a hot dog, was staring directly at her. Their eyes met. Ryan's brain short-circuited. Every rational thought evaporated. He should look away. He needed to look away. Why wasn't he looking away? His eyes were traitors, his body unresponsive, his soul actively trying to escape through the nearest exit. Ava's face went through a sequence of emotions in rapid succession: surprise, horror, recognition, and finally something that looked like barely contained fury. She snatched at the fabric, catching it and wrapping it around herself with movements that were both frantic and somehow still dignified. Ryan finally managed to tear his gaze away. He spun around so fast he nearly dropped the hot dog, his face burning with humiliation so intense he thought he might spontaneously combust right there on the beach. Oh God, oh God, oh God. He'd just seen his boss topless, and she'd caught him staring. His career was over, his life was over, everything was over. Sir, are you okay? Ryan realized he was standing in the middle of the beach walkway, frozen, while people moved around him like he was a malfunctioning robot. He forced his legs to move, walking back toward Mia in a daze. Each step felt like walking toward his own execution. Maybe Ava hadn't recognized him. Maybe the distance was too great. Maybe he could convince himself it was someone who just looked like him. Maybe, Mia Bean, we need to go, Ryan said when he reached their blanket, his voice coming out strangled. But you just got my hot dog, and we didn't have ice cream yet. We'll come back another day. Right now we need to... Ryan? The voice came from behind him. Female, controlled, familiar. Every muscle in Ryan's body tensed. He turned slowly like a man facing a firing squad. Ava Sterling stood 5 feet away, fully wrapped now, her face unreadable. Up close, without the armor of her business attire and office environment, she looked different, younger somehow, more real, and absolutely terrifying. Ms. Sterling, Ryan managed to croak out. I wasn't... What could he possibly say? Sorry for accidentally seeing you naked? Sorry for the ocean wind? Sorry for existing in the same geographic location as you during your personal time? Ava's expression remained neutral, but Ryan could see the calculation happening behind her eyes. She was assessing the situation, determining the appropriate response. He waited for the axe to fall, waited for her to tell him to come to the office first thing Monday to clear out his desk. Waited for... Is this your daughter? Ava asked, her tone surprisingly gentle. Ryan blinked. Of all the things he'd expected her to say, that wasn't it. Yes, this is Mia. Mia, who had zero awareness of the apocalyptic tension in the air, beamed up at Ava. Hi, we built a sandcastle. Do you want to see it? It has a jewel on top. Ava's face did something Ryan had never seen it do in 3 years of working together. It softened, just slightly, just for a moment, but it was unmistakable. I'd love to see it, Ava said, and to Ryan's complete shock, she knelt down in the sand next to Mia. Ryan stood there, hot dog still in hand, trying to process what was happening. His boss, the woman who just had a wardrobe malfunction in front of him, the woman who could end his career with a word, was crouching next to his 6-year-old daughter, examining a lopsided sandcastle. This is the tower, Mia explained, pointing. And that's where the princess lives. She has a dragon. His name is Sparkles. Sparkles is an excellent name for a dragon, Ava said seriously. Does the princess ever need rescuing? No, Mia was emphatic. She rescues other people. She's very brave. She sounds like a smart princess. Mia studied Ava with the intense scrutiny that only children can manage. You're pretty. Are you my daddy's friend? Ryan wanted the sand to open up and swallow him whole. Mia, this is Ms. Sterling. She's my boss from work. Oh, Mia processed this information. Do you give my daddy a lot of homework? He's always on his computer. Ava glanced up at Ryan, and for just a second, something flickered across her face. Guilt? Recognition? It was gone too quickly to identify. I suppose I do, Ava said to Mia. Your daddy works very hard. He's the best daddy in the whole world, Mia declared with absolute certainty, even when he's tired. Ryan felt his throat tighten. Kids had a way of saying things that hit you right in the heart when you least expected it. Ava stood up, brushing sand from her knees. She looked at Ryan, and he braced himself for whatever was coming. This was it. The moment where professional courtesy ended and consequences began. That was, Ava started, then paused. For the first time in Ryan's experience, she seemed uncertain. What happened earlier was unfortunate. I'm so sorry, Ryan blurted out. I wasn't trying to. I didn't intend to. I looked away as soon as. I know. Ava cut him off, but not unkindly. It was an accident, the wind. These things happen at beaches, apparently. The tension in Ryan's chest eased slightly. She wasn't going to fire him, at least not right this second. I would appreciate, Ava continued, her voice taking on a more formal tone, if we could both agree that what happened stays between us. It was embarrassing for me, and I'm sure it was uncomfortable for you. Can we just forget it happened? Ryan nodded so hard he probably looked like a bobblehead. Absolutely. Completely forgotten. Already didn't happen. I have no memory of anything. The corner of Ava's mouth twitched. Was that almost a smile? No, impossible. Ava Sterling didn't smile. Miss Sterling, do you want some of my hot dog? Mia offered, holding up the slightly squashed food item. Daddy bought it for me, but I can share. Ava looked at the hot dog, then at Mia's earnest face, then back at the hot dog. Ryan could see her internal struggle, accept food from a child on a beach, or maintain professional distance. To his amazement, she accepted. That's very kind of you, Mia. Thank you. She took a small bite, and Mia beamed like she'd just saved the world. Ryan stood there, still processing the impossibility of this moment. His terrifying boss was eating a hot dog with his daughter on a beach, minutes after one of the most mortifying experiences of his life. Do you come to this beach often? Ava asked, and Ryan couldn't tell if it was genuine curiosity or if she was trying to determine the likelihood of another accidental encounter. Not often enough, Ryan admitted. Work keeps me pretty busy, and coordinating schedules with a 6-year-old is challenging. I imagine it is. Ava handed the remainder of the hot dog back to Mia. Single parent? Ryan nodded. Divorced, 2 years now. I have full custody. He waited for judgment, for the subtle shift in her expression that people often had when they learned he was raising Mia alone. The assumption that he must be doing it wrong, that something must have gone terribly wrong for the mother to not be in the picture. But Ava's expression remained neutral. That must be difficult, balancing work and parenting. It's, Ryan searched for the right words. It's the most important thing I've ever done. And the hardest. I was raised by a single father, Ava said quietly, so quietly that Ryan almost missed it over the sound of the waves. After my mother passed when I was 7, I remember how hard he worked, how tired he always was, how he never let me see how much he was struggling. Ryan stared at her. In 3 years, Ava had never shared anything personal. She was a closed book, a professional facade, someone who existed only within the context of quarterly reports and client meetings. This glimpse behind the curtain was jarring. I didn't know that, Ryan said softly. I'm sorry about your mother. It was a long time ago. Ava straightened, and Ryan could see her pulling the professional armor back on. But I remember what it was like, watching my father try to be everything, watching him sacrifice. There was a weight to her words, a shared understanding that settled between them. For just a moment, Ava Sterling wasn't his boss. She was someone who understood what it meant to be on the other side of single parenting, who knew the cost. Anyway, Ava said, clearing her throat, I should let you two get back to your day. I'm sure you have better things to do than talk to your boss on your day off. Do you have to go? Mia piped up. You could help us build another castle. We're really good at it. Mia, Ryan said gently, Ms. Sterling probably has her own plans. Actually, Ava said slowly, and Ryan could see her surprising herself. I don't have plans. I came here to try to relax, which I'm apparently terrible at. Then you should definitely build castles with us, Mia declared. It's very relaxing and fun, and we have extra buckets. Ryan expected Ava to make a polite excuse and leave, expected her to retreat back into the professional distance that had always existed between them. Instead, she looked at the sand, at Mia's hopeful face, at Ryan's expression of complete bewilderment, and said, All right. One castle, but it needs to be structurally sound. None of this lopsided Princess Tower nonsense. Mia squealed with delight and grabbed Ava's hand, pulling her toward their blanket. Ryan followed, feeling like he'd slipped into an alternate dimension where nothing made sense anymore. The next hour was surreal. Ava Sterling, the Ice Queen, the corporate legend, the woman who'd made executives weep, sat in the sand in her beach wrap and bathing suit, building sandcastles with a 6-year-old girl, and she was taking it seriously. The foundation needs to be wider, Ava explained to Mia, packing sand with focused intensity. See? If the base is too narrow, the whole structure collapses. Like in Frozen, when Elsa's ice castle breaks, Mia said. Exactly like that. Engineering principles apply to both ice and sand. Ryan sat back, ostensibly supervising, but mostly just trying to process this new reality. Ava was playful, wasn't the right word. She approached castle building with the same serious intensity she brought to everything else. But there was something different in her demeanor. The hard edges were softer. She listened to Mia's rambling stories about princesses and dragons, without the impatient expression she wore in meetings when people went off topic. Your turn, Daddy, Mia commanded. Make the moat. Ryan dutifully began digging, accidentally flinging sand onto Ava's leg in the process. He froze, expecting irritation, but Ava just laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was bright and genuine and completely at odds with the controlled professional demeanor he'd known for 3 years. Sorry, Ryan mumbled. It's fine. I'm already covered in sand anyway. Ava gestured at herself. This is apparently what relaxation looks like. Sandy, slightly sunburned, and building architecture that will be destroyed by the tide in a few hours. That's the best part, Mia said. It doesn't have to be perfect forever. It just has to be perfect right now. Ava paused, her hands stilling in the sand. She looked at Mia with an expression Ryan couldn't quite read. That's a very wise perspective, Mia. My daddy says that all the time. He says we're doing our best right now, and that's enough. Ryan felt heat creep up his neck. He'd said that to Mia during a particularly rough bedtime routine last week, when she'd been crying about a test she thought she'd failed. He hadn't meant it to be philosophical. He'd meant it to be comforting. Your daddy is right, Ava said, And when she looked at Ryan, there was something new in her gaze. Recognition, maybe, or respect. That's a good lesson. They finished the castle, a genuinely impressive structure that featured towers, a moat, a bridge made from popsicle sticks Mia had saved from ice creams past, and the sea glass jewel on the highest point. Mia insisted on taking 100 pictures on Ryan's phone, directing them to pose like they were all castle architects. In one photo, Ryan stood next to Ava, both of them sandy and squinting in the sun, with Mia kneeling proudly in front of their creation. Ryan looked exhausted but happy. Ava looked human, actually genuinely human in a way he'd never seen her before. "Can we get ice cream now?" Mia asked, because a 6-year-old's memory for promised treats was infallible. Ryan checked his wallet and tried not to wince at the depleted funds. "Sure, sweetie." "Would you like to join us, Ms. Sterling?" Mia asked, with the fearless friendliness of childhood. "Oh, I shouldn't," Ava started. "Please?" Mia unleashed the full power of the puppy dog eyes. "It's more fun with more people. And you helped with the castle, so you're part of our team now." Ava looked at Ryan, clearly leaving the decision to him. He should say no, should let her escape this accidental social obligation, should maintain professional boundaries. But standing there on the beach, sandy and sunburned, with his daughter holding his hand and looking hopeful, Ryan found himself saying, "We'd be happy to have you, if you want to." Ava hesitated for just a moment, then nodded. "I want to." They walked to the ice cream stand together, an unlikely trio. Mia chattered the entire way, asking Ava questions with the relentless curiosity of childhood. What was her favorite color? Did she have any pets? Had she ever met a real princess? Did she know that dolphins were actually really smart and sometimes they helped people? Ava answered each question patiently, and Ryan noticed something interesting. She never talked down to Mia, never dismissed her questions as childish. She engaged with her seriously, like Mia's thoughts and opinions mattered. At the ice cream stand, Mia ordered chocolate with sprinkles. Ryan got vanilla because it was cheaper. Ava surprised them both by ordering mint chocolate chip in a waffle cone, somehow humanizing her even further. They sat at a nearby picnic table, and Mia immediately launched into a detailed explanation of her school day routines, her best friend Emma, who had a pet hamster, and her opinions on various animated movies. Ryan ate his ice cream and watched his boss interact with his daughter, still half convinced he was dreaming. This didn't happen in real life. Bosses didn't accidentally reveal their humanity on beaches. They didn't build sandcastles with their employees' children. They didn't sit eating mint chocolate chip ice cream while listening to a 6-year-old's manifesto on why cats were better than dogs. "I'm sorry," Ryan finally interjected when Mia paused for breath. "She's a lot sometimes. You don't have to—" "She's wonderful," Ava said, cutting him off. And she meant it. Ryan could see it in her face, hear it in her voice. "She reminds me of myself at that age. Curious, opinionated, absolutely convinced of my own correctness about everything." "I am correct about everything," Mia said matter-of-factly, which made Ava laugh again. As they finished their ice cream, the conversation drifted to lighter topics. Ava mentioned she came to this beach because it was close to her condo, but far enough from the office that she rarely ran into colleagues. Ryan admitted he'd chosen it for the same reason: distance from anything connected to work, a place where he could just be dad instead of Ryan Cole, junior analyst who couldn't afford to make mistakes. "About Monday," Ava said as they stood to leave, and Ryan's stomach dropped. Here it came, the return to reality. The reminder that this interlude, pleasant as it had been, changed nothing. "The 7 a.m. meeting." Ryan nodded, bracing himself. "I'll be there." "I'm postponing it," Ava said, and Ryan blinked in confusion. "Make it 10 a.m. instead. That should give you more time in the morning with Mia before school." Ryan opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Thank you, Thank you. The Hendricks report is important, but it's not urgent enough to require pre-dawn meetings." Ava's tone was matter-of-fact, but there was something in her eyes, a softness, an understanding. "We can accomplish the same work in a more reasonable time frame." "Ms. Sterling, I appreciate that, but I don't want special treatment. I'm not offering special treatment, Ryan." For the first time, she'd used his first name outside of an email. It sounded different in her voice, more personal. I'm offering reasonable accommodation for an employee who's managing both professional and parental responsibilities. There's a difference. Mia tugged on Ryan's hand. I need to potty. Okay, sweetie. Let's find the bathroom. Ryan looked at Ava, still trying to process this shift in reality. Thank you for all of this. The castle, the ice cream, the meeting change. I know this wasn't how you planned to spend your beach day. Ava smiled, a real, genuine smile that transformed her face completely. Actually, it was much better than my plan. I was going to sit on a towel, fail to read a book while thinking about work, and leave feeling like I'd wasted my day off. This was nice. Unexpectedly nice. Can you come build castles with us again? Mia asked. Next time we come to the beach? Maybe, Ava said, and it didn't sound like a brush-off. It sounded like a maybe that could become a yes. If your dad says it's okay. 3 pairs of eyes turned to Ryan. He should say something non-committal, should maintain professional boundaries, should not encourage further blurring of the lines between work and personal life. That would be nice, he heard himself say. Really nice. They parted ways at the parking lot, Mia waving enthusiastically as Ava walked to her car, a sleek black Tesla that looked exactly like what Ryan would have expected the Ice Queen to drive. He loaded their beach gear into his beat-up Honda, Mia already half asleep in her booster seat, exhausted from sun and play. As Ryan drove home, he kept glancing in the rearview mirror at his daughter, then replaying the day's events in his mind. The wind, the horrifying moment of eye contact, Ava's unexpected kindness, the sand castles, the ice cream, the meeting time change. The woman he'd feared for 3 years had revealed herself to be human. Actually, wonderfully, surprisingly human. Someone who'd been raised by a single parent and understood the weight Ryan carried. Someone who could laugh at herself, build sandcastles with intensity and focus, and eat ice cream while listening to a child's rambling stories. His phone buzzed at a red light. An email notification. From Ava Sterling. Subject: Today. Ryan's heart rate spiked. Here it was, the professional reframe. The email that would walk back all the warmth and establish clear boundaries for their Monday interaction. He opened it, dreading what he'd find. Ryan, thank you for allowing me to intrude on your day with Mia. I haven't built a sandcastle since my father and I used to go to Jones Beach when I was a child. I'd forgotten how satisfying it is to create something that doesn't need to last forever to be worthwhile. Regarding our earlier, unfortunate encounter, let's agree it never happened. I'd prefer we both move forward without awkwardness. You're a valuable employee, and I'd hate for an accident of wind and timing to affect our professional relationship. See you Monday at 10. Give Mia my regards. Ava. It was signed with her first name, not Ms. Sterling or A. Sterling, just Ava. Ryan read it 3 times, looking for subtext or hidden meaning, but it seemed straightforward, genuine even. An olive branch, a reset, an acknowledgement that something had shifted between them today. When they got home, Mia was too tired for her usual bath time negotiations. She fell asleep almost immediately, clutching the sea glass from their sandcastle. Ryan stood in her doorway for a long moment, watching her breathe, feeling the familiar, overwhelming love mixed with exhaustion that defined his life now. He should go finish the Hendricks report, should prepare for Monday's meeting, should do a dozen responsible, necessary things. Instead, he pulled out his phone and scrolled through the photos from the beach. There, the one of all 3 of them with the castle, Mia's gap-toothed grin, his own tired but genuine smile, and Ava, caught mid-laugh, sandy and human and real. Ryan sent it to his personal email, then hesitated before doing something impulsive and probably stupid. He forwarded it to Ava with a simple message. Thought you might want a copy. Evidence that you can, in fact, relax. Ryan. Her response came faster than he expected. Evidence that might be used against me in future board meetings. But yes, I want it. Thank you. Ava. Ryan set his phone aside and lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling. The worst day of his life. The moment he'd accidentally seen his terrifying boss topless on a beach had somehow transformed into something else entirely. Something that felt like the beginning of a shift, a change, a small crack in the walls they'd both built around themselves. Monday would come. Work would return to normal, probably. Ava would be the ice queen again, and he would be the invisible junior analyst trying to keep his head above water. But something had changed today. Some connection had been made, some understanding reached. As Ryan finally drifted off to sleep, his last thought was of Mia's words. It doesn't have to be perfect forever. It just has to be perfect right now. Today had been perfect. Complicated, mortifying, unexpected, and absolutely perfect. And somehow, impossibly, Ryan found himself looking forward to Monday morning. Monday morning arrived with the jarring buzz of Ryan's alarm at 7:45 a.m., a luxury he hadn't experienced in months. The extra 2.5 hours felt like winning the lottery. He'd actually slept through a full REM cycle. Mia had woken up naturally instead of being dragged from bed in the pre-dawn darkness. They'd had time for a real breakfast, pancakes even, instead of the usual granola bar consumed in the car. "You're happy today, Daddy," Mia observed, syrup dripping down her chin as she demolished her third pancake. "You're doing the humming thing." Ryan paused mid-pour of his coffee. "I hum?" "When you're not stressed. You hum songs, but you don't know the words, so it's just the tune and it's kind of off-key, but I like it." Out of the mouths of babes. Ryan hadn't even realized he'd been humming, but Mia was right. The knot of tension that usually lived between his shoulder blades had loosened slightly. The impossible juggling act of his morning routine had felt almost manageable today. "Well, we have Miss Sterling to thank for that," Ryan said, wiping Mia's face with a napkin. "She changed our meeting time so we could have a better morning." "She's nice," Mia declared with the absolute certainty of childhood. "I like her. She builds good castles." Ryan thought about that email, the one signed with just her first name, about the way Ava had laughed in the sun, sandy and unguarded, about how she'd listened to Mia's rambling stories like they mattered. "Yeah, sweetie, I think she might be nice." By 9:30 a.m., Ryan had dropped Mia at school, with time to walk her to the classroom door instead of the usual frantic drop-off, and made it to the office. The Sterling and Associates building was a glass and steel monument to corporate success, all clean lines and intimidating architecture. Ryan's desk was on the 7th floor, a cubicle in a sea of cubicles, where junior analysts toiled under the watchful eye of the executives above. His desk phone was blinking with a voicemail. Ryan's stomach clenched reflexively. Voicemails were never good news. "Ryan, it's David Chen from accounting. Listen, I know you've got that meeting with Sterling today, and I just wanted to give you a heads up. She's been in rare form this morning. Already made Patterson for marketing cry, and she eviscerated the Q3 projections team. Whatever you present today, make sure it's bulletproof. Good luck, man. You're going to need it." Ryan's brief moment of morning optimism evaporated. Of course, whatever warmth had existed on the beach was just that, an aberration, a temporary glitch in the Ice Queen's programming. This was the real Ava Sterling, the one who made grown men cry, the one he needed to face in 30 minutes with a report that he knew had flaws. He pulled up the Hendrix analysis on his computer, his eyes scanning the data with growing dread. The projections were solid, but there were gaps in the market research section, areas where he'd had to make educated guesses because the client hadn't provided complete information. Ava would spot those gaps in seconds. She always did. Ryan's hands were sweating as he printed the report. Around him, the office hummed with the usual Monday morning chaos. Keyboards clicking, phones ringing, the coffee machine in the break room grinding beans. His colleague Marcus leaned over the cubicle wall. "Heard you've got Sterling at 10. Man, I'm glad it's you and not me. She's on the warpath today." "Thanks for the encouragement," Ryan muttered. "Just saying, keep your head down, agree with everything she says, and try not to make eye contact for too long. I heard she can smell fear." Ryan gathered his materials and headed for the elevator, his heart hammering against his ribs. The executive floor was on 12. As the elevator climbed, Ryan tried to center himself. Professional, competent. Don't think about the beach. Don't think about sandcastles or ice cream or the way she'd laughed. That wasn't real. This was real. The cold fluorescent lights, the intimidating silence of the executive corridor, the assistant's desk outside Ava's office where Jennifer Park sat like a gatekeeper. "She's expecting you," Jennifer said without looking up from her computer. "Go right in." Ryan knocked twice on the heavy wooden door. "Enter." The voice was cool, professional, utterly familiar. Ryan pushed open the door and stepped into Ava Sterling's office, a space he'd only been in twice before, once for his initial interview, once for his annual review. It was exactly as intimidating as he remembered. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city, sleek modern furniture, diplomas and awards lining one wall. Everything meticulously organized, not a single item out of place. Ava sat behind her desk, and Ryan's breath caught. She was back in her armor, a sharply tailored navy suit, her hair pulled into a severe bun, minimal makeup applied with precision. The woman from the beach might as well have been a different person. This was the Ice Queen, complete with reading glasses perched on her nose and an expression that gave away nothing. "Ryan, sit." She gestured to the chair across from her desk without looking up from whatever document she was reviewing. "You have the revised Hendricks analysis?" "Yes, Ms. Sterling." Ryan set the report on her desk, his hand steadier than he felt. "I've addressed the preliminary concerns you outlined in your Friday email." Ava picked up the report, and Ryan watched her eyes scan the pages with terrifying speed. She was a machine, processing information faster than anyone he'd ever met. 30 seconds, 60. The silence stretched like taffy. "The revenue projections in Section 3, Ava said, her finger tapping a specific paragraph. "You've increased the Year 2 estimates by 18%. Walk me through that logic." Ryan had prepared for this question. The client's market expansion into the Southeast region opens up a demographic that's currently underserved. Based on comparable expansions by their competitors, conservative estimates suggest conservative. Ava's eyes flicked up to meet his, and Ryan felt pinned like a butterfly under glass. These aren't conservative, Ryan. These are optimistic at best, fantastical at worst. What happens if their Southeast expansion hits regulatory hurdles? What if their primary competitor undercuts their pricing model? Where's your risk analysis? There it was. The flaw Ryan had known was there, but had hoped he could gloss over. I noted in the appendix that additional risk modeling would be beneficial before final presentation to the client. The appendix. Ava's tone could have frozen water. You buried the critical caveat in the appendix. Do you know what happens when clients see projections like these in the main body? They make decisions based on optimism. They overextend. They fail. And when they fail, they blame us. They sue us. They destroy reputations. Ryan felt his face heating. I understand that, but the client requested aggressive growth scenarios. The client doesn't know what they need. That's why they hire us. Ava set the report down with a definitive thud. Our job isn't to tell them what they want to hear. It's to tell them the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable, especially when the truth is uncomfortable. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Ryan wanted to defend himself, to explain the impossible timeline he'd been working under, the incomplete data the client had provided, the fact that he'd been doing this entire analysis while juggling single parenthood and running on 3 hours of sleep most nights. But none of that mattered. The work was flawed, and Ava had identified exactly where. You're right, Ryan said finally, the words tasting like defeat. The risk analysis should be integrated into the main body. The projections need to be more conservative. I'll revise. Ryan. Ava's voice had changed, lost some of its sharp edge. Look at me. He did, expecting to see disappointment or anger. Instead, her expression was complicated. Thoughtful, maybe. Less Ice Queen, more human. The analysis is flawed, Ava continued, but it's not unsalvageable. The core methodology is sound. Your market research is actually quite thorough. You've clearly put significant effort into this. She paused, seeming to choose her next words carefully. But you're drowning. I can see it in the work. Corners cut not from laziness, but from exhaustion. Good instincts buried under the pressure of doing everything too fast. Ryan didn't know what to say. This wasn't the evisceration he'd expected. It was feedback. Honest, but not cruel. I'm going to be direct with you, Ava said, leaning back in her chair. And I'm saying this as your supervisor, not as someone who built sandcastles with your daughter yesterday. There it was. The acknowledgement that Saturday had happened, that it meant something beyond a random encounter. Your work is good, Ryan. Better than good, usually. But you're operating at 80% capacity because you're trying to maintain 150% across two full-time jobs, this one and parenting. That's not sustainable. I can handle it, Ryan said automatically, the defense mechanism he'd perfected over 2 years of single parenting. I just need to— You need support, Ava interrupted, which is why I'm reassigning the Hendricks client presentation to Patterson and bringing you onto the Meridian Strategy Project instead. Ryan's head snapped up. Patterson? But I've been working on Hendricks for 6 weeks. And you've done the heavy lifting. Patterson can polish the presentation and handle the client meeting. The Meridian project is longer term, more strategic, and has a flexible timeline. You'll be working directly with me on it, which means I can accommodate your schedule as needed. Ryan's brain struggled to process this. Being pulled off a client presentation was usually a demotion, a sign of failure. But the way Ava framed it, the Meridian project sounded like an opportunity? And working directly with her was either a nightmare or a promotion. He couldn't tell which. I don't understand, Ryan admitted. If my work on Hendricks wasn't up to standard, your work was up to standard. It just needed refinement, which you didn't have time to provide given the accelerated timeline I imposed. Ava removed her reading glasses, and without them, she looked more like the woman from the beach. Human, approachable. I'm not punishing you, Ryan. I'm adjusting the situation to better utilize your strengths. And if I say, I want to finish Hendricks myself, Ava smiled slightly, then I'd say you're letting pride override pragmatism, which is admirable, but ultimately counterproductive. Patterson is perfectly capable of execution. You're better suited for strategy. Let me use you where you'll be most effective. The phrase, let me use you, should have sounded transactional, cold. Instead, it sounded almost protective, like Ava was rearranging the chessboard to put Ryan in a position where he could succeed rather than just survive. The Meridian project, Ryan said slowly. What's the scope? Ava's eyes lit up, actually lit up with something that looked like enthusiasm. 5-year digital transformation strategy for a mid-sized manufacturing company. They're hemorrhaging market share to more agile competitors and need a complete operational overhaul. It's complex, it's challenging, and it's exactly the kind of work that will position you for senior analyst consideration when reviews come up next quarter. Senior analyst. That was 2 levels above where Ryan currently sat. Better pay, better hours, better everything. The kind of position that would mean actual stability for him and Mia. Why me? Ryan asked. You have analysts with more experience, because I watched you build a sandcastle with your daughter, Ava said, and the unexpected honesty of it made Ryan's breath catch. You approached it strategically. You let her lead but provided structure. You adapted when her vision didn't match structural integrity. You created something collaborative and functional and, she paused, joyful. That's exactly the mindset this client needs. Someone who can balance vision with pragmatism. Ryan stared at her. The Ice Queen had just told him he was qualified for a major project because of his sandcastle methodology. The absurdity of it would have made him laugh if he wasn't so stunned. I'm serious, Ava added, misreading his silence. The way you problem solve, the way you prioritize under pressure, those are valuable skills. I just need to put you in a position where you're not constantly operating in crisis mode. Ms. Sterling, Ava, she said it firmly. When we're working directly together on Meridian, you can call me Ava. Ms. Sterling is for formal presentations and client meetings. In strategy sessions, we're colleagues. Ryan felt like he'd stepped through a mirror into an alternate dimension. That seems inappropriate. The hierarchy exists to maintain professionalism in large team settings, Ava said. When it's strategic partnership, excessive formality just creates barriers to good communication. I need you to be comfortable enough to challenge my ideas, to push back when something doesn't make sense. You can't do that if you're intimidated by titles. She stood up, moving to the window with her arms crossed. From behind, she looked exactly like the woman he'd seen on the beach. Same posture, same slight tension in her shoulders. I'm not good at this, she said quietly, almost to herself. The human aspect of management. I know my reputation, Ice Queen, Dragon Lady. I've heard all the variations. I've never called you. You don't have to say it for it to be true. Ava turned back to face him. I built this company by being ruthless, by demanding excellence, by never accepting less than perfection. It worked. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that the people working for me aren't machines. They have lives, complications, responsibilities beyond these walls. She moved back to her desk but didn't sit. Instead, she leaned against it, more casual than Ryan had ever seen her in the office. Saturday reminded me of something I'd forgotten. My father used to work 16-hour days to keep food on the table and me in good schools. He was exhausted all the time. And She paused, something painful crossing her face. I used to resent him for it. For being tired, for missing things, for not being present even when he was physically there. Ava, Ryan started, but she held up a hand. Let me finish. I didn't understand until much later what he'd sacrificed, the opportunities he'd given up, the life he could have had, all of it sublimated to making sure I had better. And now, running this company, I've become the person who demands that same sacrifice from others without acknowledging the cost. She looked directly at Ryan. I saw you with Mia, the way she looks at you, the way you prioritize her even when you're clearly running on empty. I don't want to be the reason that child grows up resenting her father for being absent. The vulnerability in Ava's voice was staggering. This wasn't the Ice Queen. This was someone who'd been shaped by loss and sacrifice and was trying, however imperfectly, to be better. Mia could never resent me, Ryan said softly. She's the reason I do any of this. I know, and I'm not going to be the person who takes that away from either of you. Ava straightened, pulling her professional demeanor back on like armor. So, Meridian Project, flexible timeline. You'll work from home 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Core strategy meetings on Mondays and Wednesdays, scheduled no earlier than 10 a.m. Fridays are for independent research and can be done remotely if needed. Does that work for your childcare situation? Ryan's throat felt tight. This wasn't just accommodation. This was restructuring around his life. Yes, that would be incredibly helpful. But the other analysts don't have a 6-year-old daughter depending on them, Ava said firmly. And frankly, I should have been offering flexible arrangements long before now. You're the catalyst for policy changes I should have implemented years ago. Before Ryan could respond, Ava's desk phone rang. She glanced at it, frowned, then picked up. Yes, Jennifer? Tell him I'm in a meeting. Fine. Give me 5 minutes. She hung up and turned back to Ryan. I have a conference call with a very demanding client in 5 minutes. Do you have any other questions about the Meridian project before we table this until Wednesday? Ryan had about 1,000 questions, most of which had nothing to do with work. Questions like, who are you really? And what happened on that beach? And why are you being kind to me? But what he said was, just one. Why are you doing this? The project, the schedule flexibility, all of it. We barely know each other outside of work. Ava was quiet for a long moment, her fingers drumming lightly on her desk. Because someone should have done it for my father, she finally said. Because every time I look at employee files and see single parent noted in the personal section, I think about how the system is designed for people with support networks and endless flexibility. Because I have the power to change that, at least within these walls, and I've been too focused on quarterly earnings to use it. She paused, then added more quietly, and because Mia told me I was pretty and shared her hot dog with me, and that was the most genuine human interaction I've had in longer than I care to admit. If a 6-year-old can extend kindness without agenda, surely I can manage basic human decency. Ryan felt something crack open in his chest, a warmth spreading through the constant anxiety he'd been carrying for 2 years. Thank you, he said, and meant it more deeply than she could possibly know. For seeing me, for seeing us. Wednesday, 10 a.m., Ava said, but her tone was gentler now. We'll start mapping out the Meridian strategy. Bring coffee. I know you subsist on it. And Ryan, the Hendricks work wasn't bad. It just wasn't your best, and you deserve the opportunity to do your best work without compromising your daughter's childhood. Ryan left Ava's office in a daze. nearly walking straight into Marcus in the corridor. Dude, you're alive! Marcus grabbed his shoulder, spinning him around. What happened? We heard raised voices. Patterson said Sterling was on a rampage this morning. She was... Ryan searched for the right words. Professional, direct. Actually really fair. Marcus looked at him like he'd grown a second head. Fair? Ava Sterling? Are we talking about the same person? The woman who made Jenkins quit via email because he couldn't handle another review meeting with her? Maybe she's changing, Ryan said, surprising himself with the defensive note in his voice. Or maybe we don't know her as well as we think we do. Okay, seriously, what happened in that office? Did she hypnotize you? Should I be concerned? Ryan laughed, the sound feeling rusty but genuine. I got moved to a new project. Long-term strategy work, flexible schedule, direct collaboration with Ava, with Ms. Sterling. You're on a first-name basis with the Ice Queen? Marcus's eyes went wide. What kind of weird alternate reality did I wake up in? The kind where impossible things happen, Ryan said, thinking about sandcastles and accidental kindness and the way Ava's whole face transformed when she smiled. The kind where maybe people are more complicated than their reputations suggest. The rest of Monday passed in a blur. Ryan spent the afternoon researching Meridian Manufacturing, diving into their financial reports and market position. The more he learned, the more excited he became. This was exactly the kind of complex, multifaceted problem he loved. A company with good bones but outdated systems, a leadership team ready for change but unsure of direction. It was a puzzle, and Ryan had always been good at puzzles. At 4:30, his phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Chen, his elderly neighbor who picked Mia up from school on the days Ryan couldn't make it. The message was a photo of Mia doing homework at Mrs. Chen's kitchen table, her tongue sticking out in concentration. The caption read, "She's eaten 3 cookies and informed me that princesses don't need to know multiplication tables because they have dragon accountants. Coming home at 5:30? Ryan smiled and typed back, "Be there at 5:15, save me a cookie, and tell her dragon accountants still need to know math." For the first time in months, he left the office at exactly 5:00 p.m., not frantically rushing because he was late, not guilty because he was leaving early, just leaving. At a reasonable time, like a person with a life outside these walls. When he picked up Mia from Mrs. Chen's apartment down the hall, she launched herself at him with her usual enthusiasm. "Daddy, guess what? Mrs. Chen's cat caught a lizard and I helped save it, and then we let it go outside and I named him Gerald before we released him." "That's great, sweetie." Ryan scooped her up, breathing in the sweet kid smell of her hair, sugar cookies and strawberry shampoo and pure joy. "Did you thank Mrs. Chen for picking you up?" "Thank you, Mrs. Chen," Mia called over Ryan's shoulder. "Your cookies are the best in the whole building." Mrs. Chen, a spry 70-something with silver hair and sharp eyes, smiled at them both. "She's welcome any time, Ryan. Such a sweet child." Then, lowering her voice so Mia couldn't hear, "You look less exhausted today. Something good happen?" "Maybe," Ryan admitted. "Things might be getting a little easier at work." "Good. You're a good father, but even good fathers need support." Mrs. Chen patted his arm. "Don't forget to take care of yourself too, eh?" That evening, Ryan actually had time to make dinner. Real dinner, not microwave meals or takeout. Spaghetti with sauce from a jar, garlic bread from the freezer, and a salad that Mia picked through looking for hidden vegetables. They ate together at the kitchen table instead of in front of the TV. They talked about Mia's day, about the lizard named Gerald, about whether dragon accountants would prefer Excel or Google Sheets. During bath time, Mia asked, "When can we go back to the beach and see Ms. Sterling again?" Ryan paused mid-shampoo rinse. "I don't know, sweetie. Ms. Sterling is very busy with work." "But she liked building castles with us. I could tell. She smiled a lot." Mia tipped her head back, letting the water run over her hair. "And she made you smile too. You don't smile like that a lot, Daddy." Out of the mouths of babes. Again, life is complicated, Mia Bean. Work friends and real friends are different things. Why? The eternal question of childhood, the one that forced you to examine assumptions you'd stopped questioning. Because Ryan struggled to articulate something he wasn't sure he believed anymore. Because work has rules about how people interact, and mixing work and personal life can get messy. Adults make everything too complicated, Mia declared with the wisdom of 6 years. If you like someone and they like you, you should be friends. That's what Emma says, and Emma is very smart. Ryan wrapped her in a towel, hugging his dripping daughter close. Emma is very smart, and you're very smart, and maybe you're both right about keeping things simple. That night, after Mia was asleep, Ryan sat on his balcony with a beer he'd been saving for a special occasion. The Florida night was humid but pleasant, the city lights twinkling below his modest apartment building. He pulled out his phone and scrolled to the photo from Saturday. The three of them with the sandcastle, all sandy and sun-drunk and happy. He shouldn't send it, should maintain professional boundaries, should recognize that Ava's kindness today was about policy changes and management evolution, not personal connection. But Mia's words echoed in his head. If you like someone and they like you, you should be friends. Ryan opened his text messages and found Ava's number. She'd included it in the email about the Meridian project, saying he should feel free to reach out with questions. He stared at it for a long moment, thumb hovering over the keyboard. Finally, he typed, Mia asked when we can build castles with you again. Apparently, dragon accountants need beach breaks too. No pressure, but the offer stands if you ever need a Saturday escape from being the Ice Queen. Ryan. He hit send before he could overthink it, then immediately regretted everything. Too casual, too familiar. He'd just texted his boss about building sandcastles. He was an idiot. A well-meaning idiot, but an idiot nonetheless. His phone buzzed 30 seconds later. Tell Mia that dragon accountants definitely need beach breaks, and tell her I'm working on being less icy. Next Saturday, same beach, 11 a.m., I'll bring the good shovels. Ava. Ryan read the message 3 times, a smile spreading across his face like sunrise. Then he went inside, closed his laptop without opening his work email for the first time in months, and slept the deep, dreamless sleep of someone who just discovered that maybe, just maybe, the impossible could become possible after all. Wednesday morning came with the kind of crystalline clarity that made everything feel sharp-edged and significant. Ryan arrived at the office at 9:45, carrying 2 large coffees, one black for himself, one with cream, and 2 sugars because he'd remembered Ava ordering it that way at a company meeting months ago. It was a small detail, the kind of thing his exhausted brain had filed away without knowing why, and now it felt important to get it right. Jennifer looked up as he approached, her expression shifting from professional neutrality to something resembling surprise. Mr. Cole, she's expecting you. Go ahead in. Ryan knocked once and entered to find Ava already deep in work, her desk covered with printouts and her laptop displaying what looked like market analysis charts. She glanced up, and for just a moment, Ryan saw the flicker of the woman from the beach, the slight softening around her eyes, the hint of a smile, before the professional mask settled back into place. You brought coffee, Ava said, and it sounded almost like an accusation. You said to bring coffee. I assumed you meant for both of us. Ryan set the cup on her desk. Cream, 2 sugars, unless you've changed your preference since the quarterly review meeting in March. Ava picked up the cup, took a sip, and something in her expression shifted. You remember how I take my coffee from a meeting 6 months ago? Ryan felt heat creep up his neck. I remember a lot of things. Hazard of the job, data retention. That's not data retention, Ryan. That's paying attention. Ava gestured to the chair across from her. Sit. We have a lot to cover. The next 2 hours flew by in a blur of strategic planning. Ava spread out Meridian Manufacturing's organizational charts, financial statements, and market analysis reports across her desk. She talked fast, her mind clearly working 3 steps ahead, but she paused frequently to make sure Ryan was following. Not in a condescending way, but in a genuinely collaborative one. Their supply chain is the weakest link, Ryan said, pointing to a specific section of the operations report. Look at these lead times. They're hemorrhaging money on rush orders and expedited shipping because their inventory forecasting is stuck in 1995. Good catch, Ava made a note on her tablet. What would you recommend? Complete digital overhaul of their inventory management system, real-time tracking, predictive analytics, automated reordering based on historical patterns and market trends. It's a significant upfront investment, but the ROI within 18 months would be substantial, Ava finished. I like it. What's the risk? Implementation resistance. The operations manager has been there for 20 years. He's going to see this as an attack on his competence rather than a systems upgrade. Ava leaned back in her chair, studying Ryan with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable, but somehow wasn't. How do we mitigate that? Make him the hero of the transformation. Position him as the experienced expert who's going to guide the company into the digital age. Give him ownership of the rollout, a team to lead, recognition for his institutional knowledge. People resist change when they feel replaced, not when they feel elevated. That's good, Ava said quietly. That's actually brilliant. Most consultants would recommend replacing him with someone younger and more tech-savvy. You're thinking about the human element. I learned from watching my dad try to manage change at his job, Ryan admitted. He was a shift supervisor at a manufacturing plant. Every time corporate tried to implement new systems, they treated the floor workers like obstacles instead of assets. The pushback was always massive, but when management involved workers in the planning, asked for their input, acknowledged their expertise, the transitions were smooth. Ava was quiet for a moment, her fingers tapping a rhythm on her desk. Your father sounds like a smart man. He was. He passed away 3 years ago. Heart attack. He was only 58. Ryan wasn't sure why he was sharing this, but something about the space between them felt safe enough for truth. He never got to meet Mia. That's one of my biggest regrets. I'm sorry, Ava said, and the simplicity of it, the lack of platitudes or empty comfort, made it real. My father died when I was 25. Stroke. He'd worked himself into the ground building his business, saving for my education, making sure I had every opportunity he never did. And then he was just gone. Before I could tell him, I understood what he'd sacrificed. The vulnerability in her voice created an ache in Ryan's chest. They were two people shaped by loss, by the weight of parental sacrifice, by the determination to make those sacrifices mean something. Is that why you built Sterling and Associates? Ryan asked. To honor him? To prove I deserved everything he gave up for me. Ava's laugh was hollow. And somewhere along the way, I became exactly what killed him. Someone who worked too hard, demanded too much, forgot that life existed outside of quarterly reports and client meetings. She met Ryan's eyes. Your father would be proud of you for choosing differently, for putting Mia first. I don't know if I'm choosing differently or just barely holding it together, Ryan admitted. Most days feel like controlled chaos. That's called being human, Ava said. Something I'm apparently still learning how to do. The conversation shifted back to Meridian, but something had fundamentally changed in the room. They weren't just supervisor and employee anymore. They were two people who understood each other's scars, who recognized the weight each other carried. By noon, they'd outlined a comprehensive strategy framework. Ava closed her laptop with a satisfied click. This is solid work. Better than solid. You have good instincts, Ryan. I'm going to need you to take the lead on the cultural assessment piece, interviewing Meridian's key personnel, understanding the organizational dynamics. Can you handle that? Absolutely. When do we start? Next week. I'll arrange site visits for Tuesday and Wednesday. You'll come with me to their headquarters in Tampa. We'll interview the leadership team, tour the facilities, get a real sense of the company culture. Ava paused. It'll require overnight stay. Tuesday night, back Wednesday afternoon. Will that work with your childcare situation? Ryan did the mental calculus. Mrs. Chen could probably handle an overnight, or maybe he could ask Jennifer's sister, who sometimes babysitted. It would be complicated, but manageable. I can make it work. If you can't, I can, Ryan said firmly. This is important. I'll figure it out. Ava nodded, but there was something in her expression that looked almost like concern. Don't sacrifice your daughter's stability for this project, Ryan. We'll find a way to make it work around your needs. Before Ryan could respond, his phone buzzed with an incoming call. Mia's school. His stomach dropped instantly. Schools never called unless something was wrong. I'm sorry, I need to take this, Ryan said, already standing. It's my daughter's school. Of course. Take it. Ryan stepped into the hallway, his heart hammering. This is Ryan Cole. Mr. Cole. This is Principal Matthews at Sunshine Elementary. Mia is fine, she's not hurt, but we need you to come pick her up. She's been involved in an incident with another student and she's quite upset. What kind of incident? Is she hurt? She pushed another child during recess. The other child is fine, just startled, but Mia is refusing to talk to anyone, and she's asking for you. Can you come get her? Mia had never been violent. Never. Something was seriously wrong. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Ryan ended the call and turned to find Ava standing in her office doorway. She must have heard enough to understand the situation. You need to go, she said. It wasn't a question. I'm so sorry. I know we just started planning, but Ryan. Ava's voice was firm but gentle. Go get your daughter. Work can wait. Whatever happened, she needs you right now. We'll continue this tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm scheduled to work from home. Then we'll video conference, or I'll come to you, or we'll postpone until Friday. It doesn't matter. Ava stepped closer, lowering her voice. Your daughter pushed another kid, which means something is very wrong because that's clearly not who she is. Go. Be her father. I'll handle everything here. Ryan grabbed his jacket and keys, already moving toward the elevator. Thank you. I'll email you tonight to catch up on. Don't email me tonight, Ava called after him. Take care of your little girl. The work will still be here tomorrow. The drive to Sunshine Elementary took 17 minutes that felt like 17 hours. Ryan's mind raced through possibilities. Had someone hurt Mia? Said something cruel? Was this about the divorce? About Jennifer leaving? About the constant moving and adjusting and trying to be enough when he felt like he was failing? He found Mia in the principal's office, sitting in a chair that was too big for her, her legs dangling, her face blotchy and tear-stained. The moment she saw him, she launched herself into his arms. Daddy! Ryan caught her, holding tight. I've got you, sweetie. I've got you. What happened? Principal Matthews, a kind-faced woman in her 50s, gestured for Ryan to sit. Mr. Cole, thank you for coming so quickly. As I mentioned on the phone, Mia pushed another student during recess. According to witnesses, the other child, Ethan Parker, was teasing Mia about her family's situation. Ryan felt ice slide down his spine. What did he say? Ethan apparently told Mia that her mother didn't love her because she left, and that's why Mia only has one parent. When Mia tried to walk away, Ethan followed her and continued. That's when Mia pushed him. Ryan pulled Mia closer, feeling her shake against him, 6 years old and already dealing with this kind of cruelty. His heart broke and burned simultaneously. Where is Ethan now? Ryan asked, his voice carefully controlled. His parents came and picked him up. We've spoken to them about his behavior, but our policy requires us to address the physical response as well. Mia will need to serve a lunch detention tomorrow, and we'd like you both to meet with our counselor to discuss appropriate conflict resolution strategies. She's 6 years old, and a child was tormenting her about her mother abandoning her, Ryan said, each word sharp as glass. You want to punish her for defending herself? Mr. Cole, I understand your frustration, but we have a zero-tolerance policy for physical aggression. Then maybe you should have a zero-tolerance policy for emotional abuse, Ryan snapped. He took a breath, trying to calm down. Losing his temper wouldn't help Mia. I'm sorry, I know you're following protocol. We'll do the detention and the counseling, but I want you to understand that my daughter is dealing with trauma from her mother leaving, and she's doing it with more grace than most adults could manage. This is one incident in 3 years of perfect behavior. Please consider that context. Principal Matthews' expression softened. I do understand, Mr. Cole. And for what it's worth, Mia is one of our most delightful students. This is completely out of character, which is why I wanted to involve you immediately. She needs support, not punishment. The detention is required by policy, but the counseling is genuinely meant to help. Ryan nodded, exhaustion settling into his bones. Can I take her home now? Of course. We'll see you both tomorrow morning. Ryan carried Mia to the car, even though she was really too big for it now. She wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face in his shoulder, and he could feel her tears soaking through his shirt. In the car, he turned to face her. Mia Bean, look at me. She lifted her head, her eyes red and swollen. I'm sorry, Daddy. I know pushing is wrong, but Ethan said Mommy left because I wasn't good enough, and that's why you're always tired, and he said you probably wish you could leave too. Stop, Ryan's voice cracked. Stop right there. None of that is true. Do you hear me? None of it. Your mother leaving had nothing to do with you. You are perfect and wonderful and the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm tired because being a grown-up is hard, not because of you. and I will never, ever leave you. Never. Do you understand? Mia nodded, but fresh tears were streaming down her face. But why did Mommy leave? Was it because I cry too much? Because I'm loud? Because your mother was unhappy in ways that had nothing to do with you, Ryan said, pulling her close again. Sometimes adults make choices that hurt people they love. That's a failing in them, not in you. You are lovable. You are wanted. You are enough. Always. They sat in the school parking lot for 20 minutes while Mia cried herself out. Ryan held her and stroked her hair and promised her 1,000 times that he wasn't going anywhere, that she was safe, that she was loved beyond measure. When they finally got home, Ryan let Mia pick what they did for the rest of the day. She chose to build a blanket fort in the living room and watch her favorite movie, the one about the girl who saves her island, the one they'd watched 100 times already. They ate ice cream for lunch and ordered pizza for dinner, and Ryan didn't answer a single work email or phone call. At bedtime, Mia clung to him. "Daddy, can you stay with me until I fall asleep?" "Of course, sweetie." Ryan lay next to her in her twin bed, his body too large for the space, his arm going numb under her weight. She fell asleep holding his hand, and he stayed there long after her breathing evened out, watching her face in the dim glow of her nightlight. His phone buzzed quietly. A text from Ava. "Is Mia okay? No need to respond if you're busy, just wanted to check." Ryan carefully extracted himself from Mia's bed and stepped into the hallway before responding. "Rough day. Another kid was cruel about her mother leaving. She pushed him. Very un-Mia-like behavior. We're working through it." The response came quickly. "Poor thing. Kids can be vicious. Is there anything I can do?" Ryan stared at the message, something warm expanding in his chest. "You already did. You let me leave without guilt or hesitation. That meant everything." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "That's not something you should have to thank me for. That's just basic human decency. I'm sorry if I've created an environment where you expected differently." "You're changing that environment," Ryan typed. "And I'm grateful. Get some sleep, Ryan. Tomorrow we'll figure out how to make the Tampa trip work around Mia's needs. There's always a solution." Ryan went to bed that night with his phone on his nightstand, Ava's words glowing in the darkness. She cared, actually cared. Not just about his productivity or his analysis quality, but about him and Mia as whole people with lives and complications and wounds that didn't heal on corporate timelines. Thursday was a work-from-home day, which meant Ryan could drop Mia at school and be there to pick her up for her lunch detention without the complicated juggling act of leaving the office. He'd set up his laptop at the kitchen table, video conferencing into the morning team meeting while still wearing sweatpants below the waist, the work-from-home uniform. The meeting was almost over when Ava sent a private message through the chat. "Can you stay on after everyone else drops? Want to discuss Tampa logistics." When the other participants left the call, it was just Ryan and Ava on screen. She was in her office, professional as always, but there was something different in her expression, less guarded maybe. "How's Mia this morning?" Ava asked before any work discussion. "Nervous about the detention, but okay." She wrote Ethan an apology note even though he's the one who should be apologizing to her. She has a bigger heart than most adults. "She gets that from you," Ava said, and Ryan felt his face heat. "Listen, about the Tampa trip. I've been thinking about it and I want to propose an alternative. What if we made it a day trip instead? Early morning drive, full day of meetings and site tours, drive back that evening. It would be a long day, but you'd be home to put Mia to bed." "That's a 4-hour round trip on top of a full day of client work," Ryan protested. "That's not reasonable for you." "I don't mind the drive. I actually enjoy it. Gives me thinking time. And honestly, Ryan, I'd rather adjust my schedule than have you stressed about overnight childcare. This project is important, but it's not more important than your daughter's stability, especially after what happened yesterday." Ryan felt that warmth in his chest again, that sense of being seen and valued as a complete person rather than just a resource to be utilized. "Are you sure? That's a huge accommodation." "I'm sure. Besides, you can drive part of the way. We'll split it. And maybe we can use the drive time to brainstorm strategy so the day feels productive rather than just exhausting." "Okay," Ryan agreed. Thank you. Really, you don't know what this means. I think I do, Ava said softly. My father used to drive 3 hours each way to my school events because he refused to miss them. I remember sitting in the back seat while he muttered about quarterly projections and supply chain logistics. At the time, I thought it was silly. Now I understand it was love. The moment hung between them, intimate and tender, until Ava cleared her throat. Anyway, let's talk about the interview structure for the Meridian leadership team. I'm thinking we divide and conquer. You take the operations and supply chain folks, I'll handle C-suite. Then we compare notes. They worked for another hour, the conversation flowing easily between strategic planning and personal anecdotes. Ava told a story about her first disastrous client presentation when she'd accidentally switched two companies' data and spent 20 minutes presenting the wrong strategy. Ryan shared his own horror story about the time he'd brought Mia to work during a childcare emergency, and she'd drawn a dragon princess on the back of an important client contract. What did you do? Ava asked, laughing. Told the client my daughter was an artist, and this was clearly a good luck blessing from a mythical creature. Somehow they thought it was charming and signed anyway. Never bringing Mia to work again, though. Too much risk. I would have liked to see that drawing, Ava said. I bet it was better than half the corporate art in this building. When they ended the call, Ryan sat for a moment staring at his now blank screen. Something was shifting between them, something that went beyond professional courtesy or project collaboration. There was a connection forming, built on shared understanding and mutual respect, and the tentative exploration of trust. His phone rang. Mrs. Chen probably checking on Mia after yesterday's incident, but when Ryan answered, Mrs. Chen's voice was urgent. Ryan, I just heard from building management. The water main broke. They're shutting off water to the whole building for emergency repairs. Could be 6 to 8 hours. I thought you should know since you're home. Ryan looked at his laptop, at the afternoon of work he'd planned, at the mounting pile of research for the Meridian project. Then he thought about Mia coming home from school to no running water, no way to wash her hands or flush toilets or take her usual after-school bath. He called Ava directly. She answered on the second ring. Ryan, what's wrong? Water main break in my building. They're shutting off all water for repairs. I'm going to need to relocate for the afternoon, probably work from a coffee shop or something. Just wanted to let you know in case my internet gets spotty. There was a pause. Where does Mia go after school on Thursdays? Usually home with me, but with no water. Ryan trailed off, already mentally calculating options. Library maybe, or that pizza place with the play area that had Wi-Fi. Come to my place, Ava said, and Ryan nearly dropped his phone. What? My condo is 10 minutes from your building. I have excellent Wi-Fi, a proper office setup, and, she paused, running water. You can work there for the afternoon, and Mia can do her homework. I have a spare room that's basically unused. It makes more sense than trying to work from a noisy coffee shop. Ava, I can't impose on your personal space like that. You're not imposing. I'm offering. And before you argue, think about what's actually best for Mia, not what's most comfortable for you pride-wise. She had a point. Working from a coffee shop with a 6-year-old who just had an emotionally traumatic day at school would be a nightmare. But going to his boss's home felt like crossing a line they couldn't uncross. Are you sure? Ryan asked. I'm sure. I'll text you the address. Come over whenever you're ready. I'll be in meetings most of the afternoon anyway, so you'll barely know I'm here. 2 hours later, Ryan stood outside a sleek, high-rise condominium building in downtown, Mia's hand in his, both of them carrying backpacks. This was insane. He was bringing his 6-year-old daughter to his boss's home. This was definitely not in any employee handbook. Ava met them in the lobby, dressed more casually than Ryan had ever seen her at work. Dark jeans, a simple white blouse, her hair down. She looked younger, softer, more like the woman from the beach. Hi, Mia, Ava said, crouching to the little girl's level. Remember me? Mia's face lit up. The castle lady. Daddy said we're going to your house. My condo, yes. It's not as exciting as the beach, but I do have a pretty good view. Want to see? Mia nodded enthusiastically, and Ava led them to the elevator. Her place was on the 15th floor, a corner unit with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was beautiful, all clean lines and modern furniture, carefully curated art on the walls. But it also felt somewhat sterile, like a showroom rather than a home. There were no personal photos, no mess, nothing out of place. Wow, Mia breathed, running to the windows. You can see everything. Daddy, look. It's beautiful, Ryan said to Ava. Thank you for letting us invade your space. It's hardly an invasion. I'll be honest, this place could use some life in it. It's too... Ava gestured vaguely. Perfect. Sometimes I feel like I'm living in a hotel. She showed Ryan to the spare room, a small office with a desk, ergonomic chair, and a view that rivaled the executive floor at Sterling and Associates. Make yourself comfortable. Wi-Fi password is on that sticky note. Kitchen is fully stocked if Mia gets hungry. I'll be in my office down the hall if you need anything. Ms. Sterling, Mia piped up. Can I draw you another dragon, princess? I brought my good markers. Ava's entire face softened. I would love that, Mia. That would be the perfect thing to brighten up this place. Ryan worked for the next 2 hours while Mia alternated between homework and elaborate drawings at the dining room table. Every so often, he'd hear Ava's voice from her office, crisp, professional, commanding during conference calls. Then she'd emerge to check on them, and the Ice Queen would melt into someone warmer, someone who asked Mia about her drawings and laughed at her running commentary. Around 5, Ava appeared with snacks, apple slices, crackers, cheese, juice boxes. Thought you two might be hungry. You didn't have to, Ryan started. I know I didn't have to. I wanted to. Ava sat down at the table where Mia was coloring. What are you working on, Mia? A picture of us building the castle, see? That's you, and that's Daddy, and that's me. And that's Sparkles the dragon watching over us. Ava studied the drawing, and Ryan saw her throat work with emotion. This is beautiful, Mia. Can I keep it? That's why I made it, for your house, so it's not so empty. Out of the mouths of babes, again. Ryan watched Ava's face cycle through surprise, recognition, and something that looked like pain. You're absolutely right, Ava said quietly. My house is too empty. This will help a lot. Thank you. At 6:30, building management texted that the water was back on. Ryan started packing up their things, but Mia had fallen asleep on Ava's couch, exhausted from the emotional weight of the past 2 days. Let her sleep a bit longer, Ava suggested. She looks so peaceful. They stood together, watching Mia sleep, and Ryan was struck by how domestic this felt. How natural, like they were partners, parents, people who fit together in ways he hadn't expected. Can I ask you something personal? Ryan said quietly. I've invaded your family crisis twice now. I think we're past the point of professional distance. Ava leaned against the doorframe, her arms crossed but her expression open. Why are you doing all this? The schedule changes, the project assignment, inviting us here, caring about Mia. You don't know us that well, and it's clearly outside your usual management style. Ava was quiet for a long moment, her eyes on Mia's sleeping form. When my mother died, my father changed. He became this efficiency machine. Everything scheduled, everything optimized. No room for emotion or mess or the complicated parts of being human. He thought that's what I needed. Stability, structure, predictability. And maybe it was at first. But I grew up in a house that was perfectly organized and utterly empty. There was no warmth, no spontaneity, no joy. Just schedules and obligations and the constant pressure to excel. She turned to Ryan, and her eyes were bright with unshed tears. I built this company in his image, efficient, ruthless, successful. And I built my life the same way. But then I met you and Mia on that beach, and I saw what I've been missing. You're exhausted and overwhelmed and barely holding it together, but you have something I don't. You have love. Real, messy, complicated love. And Mia looks at you like you hung the moon, not because you're perfect, but because you're present. Ryan felt his chest tighten. Ava, I don't know how to do this, she continued, her voice breaking slightly. How to be a person instead of a machine. How to care about people without seeing them as assets or resources. But I want to learn, and maybe, if you'll let me, I can practice with you and Mia. Maybe you can teach me how to build sandcastles and be okay with them being imperfect. Ryan stepped closer, close enough to see the vulnerability in her expression, the fear and hope warring in her eyes. "You're already doing it," he said softly. "Every accommodation you make, every time you choose people over profit, every moment you let yourself be human instead of perfect, that's you learning. And you're better at it than you think." Ava laughed, a wet sound. "I made an employee cry this morning because his market analysis was sloppy. I don't think I'm as reformed as you're suggesting." "Progress, not perfection," Ryan said, echoing the words he told Mia every night. "That's all any of us can aim for." They stood there in the dimming light of early evening, two broken people finding unexpected wholeness in each other's company. And when Ava reached out and squeezed Ryan's hand, just once, just briefly, it felt like a promise. Like the beginning of something neither of them had known they needed. When Mia woke up, she insisted on giving Ava her dragon princess drawing before they left. Ava taped it to her refrigerator immediately, the splash of childish color absurdly out of place in her pristine kitchen, and somehow making everything better. "Thank you," Ryan said at the door, "for all of this, for seeing us." "Thank you for letting me," Ava replied. "Same time next week? Saturday at the beach?" "We'll be there," Ryan promised. As he and Mia rode the elevator down, his daughter asked, "Daddy, do you think Miss Sterling is lonely?" Ryan thought about that empty condo, that perfect sterile space, the woman who'd built walls so high she'd forgotten what it felt like to let people in. "Yeah, sweetie, I think maybe she is." "Then we should be her friends. Friends help when you're lonely." "You're absolutely right," Ryan said, pulling Mia close. "Friends help when you're lonely. And I think maybe we all need friends right now." That night, after Mia was asleep, Ryan found a text from Ava. "Mia's drawing is the first piece of real art I've had in this place in 5 years. Tell her it's my favorite thing in the whole condo." Ryan smiled and typed back, "She's going to want to decorate your whole place now. Fair warning." "Good, it needs it. And Ryan, thank you for trusting me with your most precious thing. I don't take that lightly." Ryan set his phone down and looked around his own cluttered apartment. Toys scattered across the floor, dishes in the sink, Mia's backpack spilling homework onto the couch. It was messy and chaotic and imperfect, but it was full of love, full of life, full of the beautiful, complicated reality of being human. And now, impossibly, Ava Sterling wanted to be part of that reality. The Ice Queen was melting, and Ryan was discovering that beneath all that frost was someone warm and wounded and worth knowing. The door was opening. Slowly, carefully, but definitely opening. And Ryan found himself stepping through it, Mia's hand in his, into territory that was both terrifying and full of unexpected possibility. Saturday arrived wrapped in morning fog that would burn off by noon, the kind of weather that promised a perfect beach day. Ryan woke early out of habit, then realized with a start that he'd actually slept 7 hours straight. 7 hours. When had that last happened? He lay in bed for a moment, listening to the quiet apartment, feeling something unfamiliar settle in his chest. It took him a moment to identify it. Anticipation. Not the anxious, dreading kind that usually preceded his days, but the excited kind. The kind that made him want to get up and start the day. Mia was already awake, sitting on her bed surrounded by her stuffed animals, clearly giving them some kind of important lecture. Ryan leaned against the doorframe, watching. "And when we get to the beach," Mia was telling a bedraggled stuffed rabbit, "you have to be very polite to Ms. Sterling because she's Daddy's friend, and she's learning how to not be lonely anymore. That's a very important job, and we have to help." Ryan's throat tightened. 6 years old and already more emotionally intelligent than half the adults he knew. "Morning, Mia Bean," he said, making his presence known. "Giving your friends the beach safety talk?" Mia looked up, her face serious. "Mr. Floppy was worried that Miss Sterling might be scary because she's your boss. But I told him she's actually really nice and she likes dragons, and she lets me color at her house. So he's not worried anymore." "That's good. Mr. Floppy should definitely not be worried." Ryan sat on the edge of her bed. "Are you excited about today?" "So excited. Can we make an even bigger castle this time, with a whole kingdom, and a moat with real water, and maybe Ms. Sterling can be the queen of the castle because queens are in charge, and she's good at being in charge." Ryan laughed, the sound coming easier these days. We'll see what we can build. Now come on, let's get breakfast. We need to leave by 10:30. They made the drive to Clearwater Beach with the windows down, warm air rushing through the car, Mia singing along to the radio with complete disregard for the actual lyrics. Ryan found himself humming along, that thing Mia had noticed, and he didn't try to stop it. Ava was already there when they arrived, sitting on a beach blanket in the same spot where they'd accidentally met 3 weeks ago. She'd traded her corporate armor for denim shorts and a loose linen shirt over her bathing suit, her hair in a ponytail, sunglasses perched on her head. She looked relaxed in a way Ryan was beginning to recognize. The version of Ava that existed outside the office, the one who was still learning how to simply be. "You brought the good shovels," Mia shrieked, spotting the bright orange construction tools next to Ava's bag. She took off running before Ryan could even grab their beach gear from the car. By the time Ryan made it to the blanket, Mia was already showing Ava her collection of shells from the last visit, carefully preserved in a sandwich bag. "This one is for the Queen's crown," Mia explained, holding up an iridescent piece. "And this one is for the treasury because it's shaped like a coin." "Those are excellent choices," Ava said seriously. "Every good kingdom needs a well-planned treasury." Ryan set down their bags and met Ava's eyes over Mia's head. Something passed between them, a warmth, an understanding, a shared amusement at his daughter's elaborate world-building. "Hey," Ryan said, suddenly feeling oddly shy. "Thanks for coming." "Thanks for inviting me back," Ava replied. "I've been looking forward to this all week. Is that pathetic, that the highlight of my week is building sandcastles with a 6-year-old? If it's pathetic, then I'm pathetic too. This is the highlight of my week as well. Come on." Mia grabbed both their hands, tugging them toward the water's edge. "We have to start building before the sun gets too hot and the sand gets too dry." The next 2 hours passed in a blur of construction, negotiation, and creative problem-solving. They built not just a castle, but an entire kingdom, towers and walls, a moat that actually held water for almost 10 minutes before the sand absorbed it, a bridge made from driftwood, elaborate shell decorations, even a flag fashioned from a napkin and a stick. Mia directed operations like a tiny general, assigning tasks and inspecting work with a critical eye. "Daddy, that wall is leaning. It needs more support. Ms. Sterling, can you make the North Tower taller? It has to match the South Tower, or the whole thing looks wrong." "She's very particular," Ryan said apologetically as he reinforced the questionable wall. "She's right," Ava said, carefully adding sand to the North Tower. "Symmetry matters in architecture, even sand architecture." "You're encouraging her perfectionism," Ryan pointed out, but he was smiling. "Is it perfectionism or is it having standards?" Ava asked, and there was something in her tone, a self-awareness, a gentle mockery of her own tendencies. "I'm learning to tell the difference." They worked in comfortable silence for a while, the sounds of the beach washing over them, waves, seagulls, children laughing, the distant beat of someone's music. Ryan found himself stealing glances at Ava, watching the way the sunlight caught in her hair, the way she bit her lip when she was concentrating, the way she laughed at Mia's running commentary about the kingdom's elaborate political structure. "The dragon is the royal advisor," Mia was explaining, placing a stick figure she'd made from seaweed in a position of prominence. "He doesn't do the boring paperwork like taxes. He helps make the big decisions about keeping people safe and happy." "That sounds like a good system," Ava said. "Leaders need advisors who tell them the truth, even when it's uncomfortable." "Do you have advisors?" Mia asked with that blunt childhood curiosity that bypassed all social filters. Ava paused, considering the question seriously. "I have employees who give me information and recommendations, but I'm not sure I've been very good at listening to them. I think I've spent a long time believing I had to make all the decisions alone, because asking for help meant being weak." "That's silly," Mia declared. "Even princesses need help. That's why they have friends and dragons and magic horses." "You're absolutely right," Ava said softly. "That is silly. I wish someone had explained it to me using princesses and dragons years ago. It might have saved me a lot of mistakes." Ryan watched this exchange, his heart doing something complicated in his chest. Ava was being vulnerable in a way that couldn't have been easy for her, opening up to a child with an honesty that most adults couldn't manage. My daddy needs help sometimes too, Mia continued, oblivious to the emotional weight of the conversation. He gets really tired from work and taking care of me, but he says asking for help isn't giving up. It's being smart. Right, Daddy? Right, Ryan managed, his voice rough. It's definitely being smart. Then maybe you two can help each other, Mia suggested with the simple logic of childhood. Like adventure partners. That's what me and Emma do at school. When something is too hard for one person, we do it together. Adventure partners. Ryan met Ava's eyes across their sand kingdom, and something sparked between them. Recognition, possibility, the acknowledgement that maybe they were already becoming exactly that. I think that's an excellent idea, Mia, Ava said. Your daddy and I could definitely be adventure partners. Good. Mia beamed. Now let's add the stables. Every kingdom needs horses. They spent another hour on the kingdom, then Mia declared it was swimming time. Ryan stayed on the blanket watching while Ava, to his surprise, volunteered to take Mia to the water. Are you sure? Ryan asked. She's a strong swimmer, but she's also fearless, which is a dangerous combination. I've got her, Ava said. Then more quietly, if you trust me with her. It was a loaded question, Ryan realized, not just about swimming supervision, but about something bigger. Did he trust Ava Sterling, the Ice Queen, the corporate legend, the woman who'd been a stranger a month ago, with his most precious person? I trust you, Ryan said, and meant it completely. He watched them wade into the gentle waves, Mia holding Ava's hand, chattering constantly. Ava listened with patient attention, responding to Mia's endless questions about ocean currents and fish and whether mermaids were real. At one point, a larger wave came and Mia shrieked with delight, jumping into it. Ava laughed, that same bright, genuine laugh from their first beach day, and jumped too. Ryan pulled out his phone and took a photo. Not to document or prove anything, just to capture this moment. Two people he was coming to care about, silhouetted against the sun and sea, finding joy in simple things. After swimming, they had the lunch Ryan had packed, sandwiches and fruit and chips, nothing fancy but shared with the kind of easy companionship that felt increasingly natural. Mia ate half a sandwich before falling asleep on the blanket, exhausted from sun and activity, her head on Ryan's leg. Ava stretched out on her towel, her eyes closed against the bright sky. This is nice, she said quietly. Just existing. Not optimizing or strategizing or performing, just being here. It's taken me 2 years to learn how to do it, Ryan admitted. After Jennifer left, I went into overdrive. Work harder, be better, prove I could handle everything. I turned into this anxious, exhausted version of myself. It's only recently that I've started remembering how to just breathe. What happened? Ava asked, then quickly added, You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. Ryan looked down at Mia's sleeping face, so peaceful, so trusting. Jennifer left when Mia was 4. Just came home one day and said she couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't be a wife, couldn't be a mother, couldn't be trapped in a life that felt too small. She'd met someone else, someone exciting, someone who didn't have a kid and a mortgage and all the boring responsibilities of adult life. Ava opened her eyes, turning her head to look at him. I'm sorry. That must have been devastating. The worst part wasn't her leaving me, Ryan continued, the words coming easier than he'd expected. It was watching her walk away from Mia, our daughter who she'd carried for 9 months, who she'd claimed to love. She just opted out. Moved to California with her new boyfriend. Sends a card on Mia's birthday, calls maybe once every few months. Acts like being a mother is something she can pick up and put down when it's convenient. Does Mia understand? Ava asked gently. As much as a 6-year-old can. She knows mommy lives far away and has a new life. She doesn't fully grasp that her mother chose to leave, chose to be absent. I don't know how to explain that in a way that won't break her heart. Ryan's voice cracked slightly. I'm terrified of the day she's old enough to understand the rejection, to internalize it as something wrong with her rather than something wrong with Jennifer. Ava sat up, reaching over to squeeze his hand. You're a good father, Ryan. Better than good. Mia knows she's loved. That's what will matter when she's older and processing all this. She'll remember that you stayed, that you showed up every single day, that you built sandcastles and packed lunches and made her feel like the center of your world. I hope so, Ryan said. I really hope so. They sat in silence for a moment, hands still connected, Mia sleeping between them. It felt significant, this quiet intimacy, the sharing of wounds and fears. My father died thinking I was disappointed in him, Ava said suddenly. We'd had a fight about my career. I'd just landed my first major client, and I wanted to celebrate. But he was exhausted from a double shift at his job, and he said he couldn't make dinner. I told him. She paused, her voice thick. I told him that I'd worked hard to make him proud, and the least he could do was show up for me. I was 25 and selfish, and I didn't understand that he'd given everything for me. He died 3 days later. Heart attack at work. And those were the last real words I said to him. Ryan turned his hand over, lacing his fingers through hers. Ava, he knew you loved him. One fight doesn't erase a lifetime. But it's what I carry, that moment of cruelty, of not seeing his sacrifice. It's why I push so hard now, why I can't accept less than perfection from myself, because I was imperfect when it mattered most, and I can't ever fix it. You're fixing it now, Ryan said firmly. Every time you choose compassion over criticism, every time you prioritize people over profit, every time you build sandcastles and mean it, you're honoring him. You're becoming the person he raised you to be. Ava's eyes were bright with unshed tears. How do you do that? Make everything feel fixable? Because it is fixable. Not the past. We can't change that. But the present, the future, the people we're becoming, that's all still in motion. We get to choose. Mia stirred, mumbling something about dragons before settling back into sleep. Ava looked at her, then at Ryan, and something shifted in her expression. Something tender and terrified and hopeful all at once. I don't know how to do this, Ava whispered. Whatever this is becoming, I don't have a framework for it. I can strategize a corporate merger, but I don't know how to be part of someone's life without trying to control or optimize it. You're already doing it, Ryan assured her. You're here, aren't you? You're showing up. That's all any of us can do. The afternoon drifted into evening, that golden hour when the sun started its descent and the beach took on a magical quality. Mia woke up refreshed and demanding ice cream, a tradition that was apparently now non-negotiable. They walked to the stand together, and Ryan felt the rightness of it. The three of them in a row, Mia in the middle, holding both their hands, swinging between them with delighted giggles. This is my daddy, and my Ms. Sterling, Mia announced to the ice cream vendor, a teenager who looked thoroughly uninterested. We're adventure partners, and we build the best sandcastles on the whole beach. That's cool, kid, the teenager said, handing over 3 cones. That'll be $12. Ryan reached for his wallet, but Ava was faster. I've got this. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. Ava handed over a 20. Keep the change. They sat at the same picnic table as before, and Mia immediately launched into a detailed plan for their next beach day. Next time we should bring materials for a bigger castle, and maybe we can stay later and see the sunset. And Miss Sterling, you should bring your computer so you can show Daddy how to do the work stuff better, because he's always stressed about the work stuff. Mia, Ryan said warningly, that's not... Actually, Ava interrupted, that's not a bad idea. Ryan, what if we scheduled regular working sessions? Not at the office, somewhere less formal. We could tackle the Meridian project together, and I could mentor you through some of the strategic planning frameworks that don't get taught in the usual analyst track. Ryan stared at her. You want to give me private mentoring sessions? I want to invest in talent. You're good at what you do, Ryan, but you've been limited by the systems we have in place. Systems I created, admittedly. If I can help you develop faster, why wouldn't I? Because it's extra work for you. Because you don't owe me anything beyond what's already in my job description. Ava set down her ice cream, giving him her full attention. What if I'm not doing it because I owe you? What if I'm doing it because I want to? Because investing in you feels less like work and more like something I choose to do with my time? The weight of that statement settled over them. This was more than professional development. This was Ava making space in her carefully controlled life for something unplanned, something that couldn't be quantified in quarterly reports. Okay, Ryan said softly. I'd like that. Thank you. Good. Ava smiled, that warm, genuine expression that transformed her entire face. We'll start next week. Tuesday evenings, after Mia's bedtime. My place or yours, whichever works better. Yours has better Wi-Fi and running water that doesn't randomly shut off, Ryan pointed out, and they both laughed at the memory of the water main incident. As the sun began to set, they packed up their beach gear and walked back to the parking lot. Mia was tired but happy, sand everywhere despite Ryan's best efforts to brush it off. At their cars, there was a moment of hesitation, that awkward transition point where the day ended and regular life resumed. "Thank you for today," Ava said, addressing both of them but her eyes on Ryan. "I can't remember the last time I felt this settled, like I didn't need to be anywhere else or doing anything more important." "You're welcome here any time," Ryan said, "and I mean that. Not just beach days. If you ever need a break from that empty condo, if you ever want noise and chaos and the particular brand of insanity that comes with a 6-year-old, we're here." "Can she come to dinner at our house?" Mia asked, because subtlety was not in a 6-year-old's vocabulary. "We're having spaghetti, and Daddy makes really good garlic bread, and you could meet Mr. Floppy and all my stuffed animals." Ryan felt his face heat. "Mia, Ms. Sterling probably has plans." "I don't," Ava said quickly. "I don't have plans, and I would love to meet Mr. Floppy and have spaghetti, if the invitation is genuine." Ryan looked at her, at the hope and nervousness in her expression, at the way she was trying so hard to be part of something normal and human. "The invitation is genuine. Come over. Fair warning, my apartment is nothing like your condo. It's small and cluttered, and there's probably Legos on the floor that will attack your feet." "That sounds perfect," Ava said, and meant it. An hour later, Ava stood in Ryan's apartment, taking in the organized chaos that defined their life. Mia's drawings covered the refrigerator. Toys were scattered across the living room, despite Ryan's frantic attempt to tidy up during the drive home. The furniture was mismatched and well-worn, nothing like the designer pieces in Ava's pristine space. "I know it's not much," Ryan started, but Ava cut him off. "It's wonderful. It's a home. An actual home where people live and make messes and don't worry about maintaining perfection." She picked up a photo from the shelf, Ryan and Mia at what looked like a birthday party, both of them laughing, cake smeared on Mia's face. "This is what I never had. What I never knew how to create." Mia appeared with an armful of stuffed animals. "These are my friends. This is Mr. Floppy and Princess Whiskers and Dragon Steve. They all want to meet you." Ava sat on the floor in her nice clothes, and let Mia introduce her to each stuffed animal, listening to their elaborate backstories with complete seriousness. Ryan watched from the kitchen while preparing dinner, his heart doing that complicated thing again. This was dangerous territory. Inviting his boss into his home, letting her see the intimate details of his life, allowing Mia to get attached to someone who could disappear at any moment. The logical part of his brain was screaming warnings. But the other part, the part that had been lonely for 2 years, the part that was tired of doing everything alone, that part was saying yes, this is right. Dinner was chaotic and perfect. Mia talked non-stop. Ava asked questions and seemed genuinely interested in the answers, and Ryan felt something unknot in his chest that he hadn't realized was tangled. They were just 3 people sharing a meal, laughing over silly jokes, being human together. After dinner, Mia insisted on showing Ava her room, the purple walls Ryan had painted last year, the bookshelf overflowing with stories, the art supplies that had taken over every available surface. Ava examined everything with the same focused attention she brought to client presentations. "This is the castle I made at school," Mia said, pointing to a shoebox structure covered in glitter and pipe cleaners. "It's not as good as the beach ones, but I made it all by myself." "It's magnificent," Ava said. "You know what makes a castle truly great? Not perfect construction, but the love that went into building it. This has so much love in every piece of glitter." Mia beamed. "Do you want to help me build something? I have lots of supplies." And so Ava Sterling, CEO of Sterling & Associates, terror of boardrooms, the woman who'd made executives cry, sat on the floor of a 6-year-old's bedroom and made elaborate art projects out of construction paper and googly eyes. She glued and cut and listened to Mia's rambling stories with infinite patience. Ryan watched from the doorway, taking mental pictures of this impossible, beautiful scene. At 8:30, it was Mia's bedtime. She negotiated for just 5 more minutes, 3 times before finally accepting the inevitable. Ryan went through their bedtime routine, teeth brushing, pajamas, story time, while Ava waited in the living room. When he came back, he found her looking at the photos on his bookshelf, the ones that chronicled Mia's short life. "She was so tiny," Ava said, pointing to a hospital photo. "How did you not break her?" Ryan laughed, very carefully and with a lot of panic. "The first week after Jennifer left, I was terrified I was going to mess up everything. Drop her, forget to feed her, accidentally teach her curse words. But you figure it out. You learn what their different cries mean, what soothes them, how to function on 2 hours of sleep. You make it sound manageable, but I know it's not. I know it's been impossibly hard." "It has been," Ryan admitted, "but it's also been the most important thing I've ever done, the most meaningful. Jennifer gave me Mia, and whatever else happened, I'll always be grateful for that." Ava was quiet for a long moment, then softly, "Do you think people can change? Really change, not just make surface adjustments?" "I think people can choose to become different versions of themselves," Ryan said carefully. "I've watched you do it over the past few weeks. You're not the same person who terrified me in that first meeting. Or maybe you are, but you're letting me see the other parts, the human parts that were always there." "I'm trying," Ava whispered. "I'm trying so hard to be different, to be better. But I'm scared I'll default back to the Ice Queen the moment things get difficult, that this is temporary and I'll revert to type." Ryan moved closer, taking her hand in his. "Change isn't linear. You'll have bad days, you'll make mistakes, but that doesn't erase the progress. Every time you choose differently, it gets a little easier." "And Ava?" He waited until she met his eyes. "You don't have to do it alone, remember? Adventure partners." She smiled, tears threatening at the corners of her eyes. "Adventure partners. I like that." "Daddy?" Mia's voice came from her bedroom. "I can't sleep. Can Ms. Sterling tuck me in too?" Ava looked at Ryan, uncertain. "Is that okay?" "If you want to. No pressure." They went to Mia's room together, and Ryan watched as Ava sat on the edge of the bed, smoothing back Mia's hair with a gentleness that seemed to surprise them both. "Tell me a story?" Mia asked. "About when you were little?" Ava thought for a moment. "When I was about your age, my dad and I used to go to the beach every Sunday. It was our special time, just the two of us. We'd build castles and look for shells and eat ice cream until we felt sick. Those are some of my happiest memories. Just me and my dad in the ocean." "Like us today," Mia said sleepily. "You and me and Daddy." "Yeah," Ava said, her voice thick. "Just like today. Those are happy memories too." "Good. We should make lots of happy memories together." Mia yawned. "Because that's what friends do." "That's exactly what friends do," Ava agreed. Mia drifted off quickly, her hand holding onto Ava's finger. They stayed for a moment, watching her breathe, this small person who'd somehow become the bridge between two lonely adults. In the living room, Ava gathered her things to leave. At the door, she paused. "Thank you for today. All of it. The beach, dinner, letting me into your life. I know it's complicated, me being your boss and all the potential issues that creates. But I don't want to stop. I don't want this to end just because it's easier or more professional." "Neither do I," Ryan said. "We'll figure out the complications. We'll set boundaries where we need them. But Ava, you're not just my boss anymore. You're becoming something more, something important." She stepped closer, and Ryan's breath caught. They were inches apart, and he could see the gold flecks in her eyes, the slight tremble in her hands, the way her gaze dropped to his lips before returning to his eyes. "I should go," Ava whispered, but she didn't move. "Yeah," Ryan agreed, also not moving. The moment stretched, electric and terrifying and full of possibility. Then Ava squeezed his hand once, quickly, and stepped back. "Tuesday night," she said. "Working session. Your place or mine?" "Yours," Ryan managed. "Mrs. Chen can watch Mia." "It's a date." Ava paused at her own words. "A work date. A professional meeting, not a date. "Right. Definitely professional." Ryan was smiling despite himself. Though if there happened to be wine involved, that would be very unprofessional. "Completely inappropriate." "I'll bring wine," Ava said, and there was mischief in her eyes now, a lightness that Ryan was learning to treasure. After she left, Ryan leaned against the closed door, his heart racing. This was happening. Whatever this was, it was actually happening. The Ice Queen was melting, and he was right there in the warmth of it, and it was terrifying and wonderful and absolutely nothing like he'd planned. His phone buzzed with a text. Made it home. Tell Mia that Mr. Floppy is now my second favorite thing in your apartment. The Dragon Princess drawing is still first, but it's a close competition. Thank you for today. For everything. A. Ryan typed back. Second favorite thing in the apartment? What's first? And you can't say the dragon drawing. I already told you that's not allowed. 3 dots appeared immediately, disappeared, reappeared. That information is classified. Ask me again in a few weeks when I'm braver. Ryan smiled at his phone like a teenager. I'll hold you to that. Sleep well, Ava. You too, Ryan. Sweet dreams about perfectly symmetrical sand castles and 6-year-old architectural critics. He went to bed that night with a lightness in his chest that felt like hope. Real hope. Not the desperate kind that came from wishing for impossible things, but the grounded kind that came from watching impossible things slowly become real. In her condo across town, Ava stood at her window looking out at the city lights, Mia's Dragon Princess drawing in her hand. For the first time in years, her perfect empty space didn't feel like an achievement. It felt like what it was, a carefully constructed prison she'd built to keep the mess of human connection at bay. But tonight, she'd sat on a cluttered floor and made art with a child. She'd eaten imperfect spaghetti at a mismatched table. She'd tucked in a 6-year-old and felt something crack open in her chest that she'd thought was sealed forever. She was terrified. She was hopeful. She was changing. And for once in her carefully controlled life, Ava Sterling was okay with not knowing exactly how the story would end. She was learning to build castles that didn't need to last forever, to find beauty in imperfection, to let people in even when it felt dangerous. She was learning to be human. And maybe, just maybe, she was learning to be happy. The weeks that followed took on a rhythm that felt both thrilling and terrifyingly natural. Tuesday and Thursday evenings became sacred. Ryan would drop Mia with Mrs. Chen, drive to Ava's condo, and they would work on the Meridian project while drinking wine and talking about everything except work. Friday afternoons, Ava started leaving the office at 4, meeting Ryan and Mia at various parks around the city. Saturdays were beach days, always, rain or shine. The office noticed, of course. How could they not? The Ice Queen was smiling more. Ryan Cole was walking with his shoulders back instead of hunched in perpetual anxiety. They left together sometimes, her black Tesla and his beat-up Honda pulling out of the parking garage in tandem. The gossip started quietly. Whispers in break rooms, speculation over coffee. Marcus cornered Ryan one afternoon in late August, his expression caught between concern and curiosity. Dude, what's going on with you and Sterling? And don't say nothing, because the entire 7th floor has noticed something. Ryan felt his face heat. We're working on a project together, the Meridian account. She's mentoring me through some advanced strategy frameworks. At her place on weekends? Ryan, come on, I'm your friend. You can tell me. Could he? Ryan wasn't even sure what to tell himself. What were he and Ava doing? They hadn't kissed, hadn't defined anything. But there were moments, her hand brushing his when reaching for the same document, the way she looked at him when she thought he wasn't watching, the text messages that came late at night about nothing important and everything important simultaneously. We're friends, Ryan said finally. She's been incredibly supportive about my situation with Mia. We spend time together outside of work. That's all. That's all, Marcus repeated skeptically. The Ice Queen who's never been friends with anyone is suddenly spending her free time with you. Sure, totally normal. People change, Marcus. People don't change that much unless... Marcus's eyes widened. Oh my God, you're in love with her, and she's in love with you. This is insane. This is the plot of a rom-com. This doesn't happen in real life. I'm not... Ryan stumbled over the denial and Marcus laughed. You can't even say it convincingly. Does she know? Have you told her? There's nothing to tell, Ryan insisted, but the words felt hollow even to his own ears. Because the truth was, he was falling, hard. For the woman who'd accidentally revealed her humanity on a beach and then kept revealing it, layer by layer, every time they were together. The woman who listened to Mia's endless stories with genuine interest. The woman who was learning to be soft while still being strong. But saying it out loud, admitting it, would make it real. And real meant risking everything. His job, his stability, Mia's growing attachment to Ava. Real meant vulnerability. And Ryan had spent 2 years building walls to protect himself and his daughter from exactly that kind of pain. That evening was a working session at Ava's place. Ryan arrived at 7, armed with Thai takeout and the latest market analysis for Meridian. Ava opened the door in jeans and an oversized sweater, her hair down, her feet bare. She looked young and unguarded, and Ryan's heart did that painful squeeze it had been doing more and more lately. "I have news," Ava said, barely waiting for him to set down the food. "The Meridian team loved our preliminary strategy. They want to move forward with implementation, and they specifically requested that you and I lead the project through completion. Ryan, this is huge. This is the kind of account that makes careers." Ryan felt a surge of excitement and terror. "That's amazing. When do we start?" "Full implementation begins in October. 6-month timeline, significant client interaction, executive presentations." Ava was pacing now, energy radiating off her. "And here's the thing, they want us to present to their board next week. Both of us, together. This is your chance to prove you belong in the senior analyst tier. This is everything we've been working toward." "Next week," Ryan repeated. "How much prep time are we talking?" 4 days? The presentation is Friday morning in Tampa. We'd need to drive up Thursday afternoon, stay overnight, present Friday, drive back." Ava paused, her excitement dimming slightly. "I know the overnight is complicated with Mia. If you need to..." "I'll make it work," Ryan said immediately. Then, more carefully, "This is too important to pass up, for both of us." "Are you sure? Because I can handle the presentation alone if..." "Ava." Ryan stepped closer, taking her hands. It had become natural, this casual touching, these small intimacies that weren't quite romantic but weren't quite platonic either. "We're adventure partners, remember? We do this together." She smiled, that radiant expression that transformed her entire face. "Together. I like the sound of that." They worked for 3 hours, mapping out the presentation strategy, anticipating questions, refining their approach. The wine flowed, the conversation drifted from professional to personal and back again. At one point, Ava kicked off her shoes and curled up on the couch next to Ryan, close enough that their shoulders touched. "Can I ask you something?" Ava said during a lull, her voice soft. "And you can tell me if it's too personal. After everything we've shared, I don't think anything is too personal anymore. Do you ever think about dating again, finding someone to share your life with?" Ryan's breath caught. This felt loaded, significant, like they were finally approaching the thing they'd been dancing around for weeks. "Sometimes. But it's complicated with Mia. Any relationship I have affects her. I can't just think about what I want. I have to think about what's best for her." "What would be best for her?" "Someone who sees her as a gift, not a burden. Someone who understands that she comes first, always. Someone who..." Ryan trailed off, looking at Ava. "Someone who builds sandcastles with her like they matter, who listens to her stories, who makes her feel safe and wanted and loved." Ava was very still, her eyes locked on his. "That sounds like a very specific someone." "It does, doesn't it?" Ryan's heart was hammering now. They were in dangerous territory, the kind that couldn't be walked back once crossed. "Ava, what are we doing here, really?" "I don't know," she whispered. "I've never done this before. Had someone in my life who matters this much. I don't have a roadmap for it." "Neither do I. But I know that I think about you constantly. I know that Mia asks about you every single day. I know that when something good happens, you're the first person I want to tell. And when something bad happens, you're the person I want to talk to. I don't know what to call that, but it feels like something." "It feels like something to me too," Ava admitted. "Something terrifying and wonderful and completely outside my control. I'm falling for you, Ryan. For both of you. And I don't know if I'm equipped to be what you need, but I want to try. I want to be part of your lives in a real way, not just as the boss who occasionally builds sandcastles. Ryan's hands were shaking. What about work? The complications, the potential conflicts of interest, the gossip? I don't care about the gossip. And we'll handle the conflicts the right way. Transparency with HR, clear boundaries at the office, making sure your career opportunities aren't compromised by our relationship. Ava cupped his face, her thumb brushing his cheek. I care about you, about Mia, about this life you're inviting me to be part of. Everything else is just logistics. This is crazy, Ryan breathed. You're my boss. This violates probably a dozen company policies. Then I'll change the policies. Ryan, I've spent 15 years building a company and forgetting to build a life. You and Mia are showing me what I've been missing. I don't want to miss it anymore. I don't want to be alone in this perfect empty condo wondering what it would feel like to be part of something messy and real and human. They were inches apart now, and Ryan could feel the heat of her breath, see the vulnerability in her eyes, sense the magnitude of this moment. If we do this, there's no going back. We can't just be boss and employee again. We can't unknow what this feels like. I don't want to go back, Ava said. Do you? No, Ryan admitted. God, no. I want to go forward. I want to see where this leads. She kissed him. Finally, after weeks of almost moments and loaded glances and hands that touched but didn't quite hold, she kissed him, and it was soft and tentative and absolutely perfect. Ryan's hands found her waist, pulling her closer, and she made a small sound of surprise and pleasure that sent electricity through his entire body. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ava pressed her forehead to his. I've been wanting to do that for weeks. Why didn't you? Because I was scared of messing this up, of hurting you or Mia, of being too broken to deserve something this good. Her voice cracked slightly. I'm still scared. Me too, Ryan admitted. Terrified, actually. But maybe that means it matters. Maybe the scary things are the ones worth doing. They kissed again, slower this time, deeper, years of loneliness and fear dissolving into something warm and hopeful. When Ryan finally pulled back, he was smiling so hard his face hurt. I should probably tell you, he said, that Mia has been planning our wedding since the second beach day. She has very specific ideas about dragons being involved in the ceremony. Ava laughed, the sound bright and joyful. Of course she does. Tell her I'm open to dragon-inclusive ceremonies. I'm learning to be flexible. They spent the rest of the evening on the couch, wrapped around each other, talking about logistics and feelings and the terrifying, beautiful future they were stepping into. When Ryan finally left at midnight, it was with the kind of giddy happiness he hadn't felt since before his marriage fell apart. He texted her from his car. I don't want to be dramatic, but I think that wind that blew your beach wrap off might have been the best thing that ever happened to me. Her response came immediately. Best and most mortifying. But yes, definitely worth the humiliation. Come back tomorrow? I miss you already. Tomorrow, Ryan confirmed, and drove home feeling like he was floating. The next week passed in a blur of presentation prep, stolen kisses when the office was empty, and careful navigation of their new reality. They were professional during meetings, but there were moments, a shared look across the conference table, a brief touch when passing documents, the way Ava's voice softened when she said his name, that made it clear something had shifted. On Wednesday, Ryan sat Mia down for a serious conversation. They were in her room, surrounded by her stuffed animals, who apparently needed to be present for important discussions. Mia Bean, I need to talk to you about something grown up. Mia set down her crayons, her face serious. Is it about Miss Sterling? Are you going to tell me you like her? Ryan blinked. How did you... Daddy, I'm 6, not blind. You get all smiley when she texts you, and she looks at you the way the princess looks at the prince in my movies. Plus, Mrs. Chen said you're clearly smitten, whatever that means. Out of the mouths of babes, and apparently nosy elderly neighbors. Okay, yes, I like Ms. Sterling, and she likes me back. We're going to try being together, like boyfriend and girlfriend. How do you feel about that? Mia's face split into a huge grin. Finally. I've been waiting forever for you to figure it out. Can I call her Ava instead of Ms. Sterling now? Can she come over more? Can we go to the beach every weekend forever? Slow down. Ryan pulled Mia onto his lap. This is important, sweetie. Ava would never try to replace your mom. She's not trying to be your mother. She's just someone who cares about both of us and wants to be part of our family. Is that okay with you? Mia was quiet for a moment, her little face thoughtful. I don't really remember Mommy very much anymore. I know I'm supposed to, but she's kind of like a dream person. Not really real. But Ava is real. She shows up. She builds castles with me. She makes you happy. And you haven't been really happy in a long time. Ryan's throat tightened. I'm happy with you, baby. Always. I know, but it's a different happy. When Ava is around, you smile with your whole face, not just your mouth. And you should get to be whole face happy, Daddy. You deserve it. Ryan held his daughter close, overwhelmed by her emotional intelligence, her generosity, her ability to see what he needed, even when he couldn't see it himself. I love you so much, Mia Bean. You know that, right? I know, and I love Ava too. She's our adventure partner. That makes her family. Thursday afternoon, Ryan and Ava drove to Tampa for the Meridian presentation. The trip took 4 hours, and they spent it talking about everything and nothing. Childhood memories, favorite books, embarrassing moments, dreams for the future. Ava told stories about building her company from nothing, the failures and successes, the lonely years when work was all she had. Ryan shared memories of his father, his short-lived marriage, the terrifying early days of single parenthood. I was so angry at Jennifer for leaving, Ryan admitted as they merged onto the highway. Not just for abandoning me, but for walking away from Mia. What kind of mother does that? How do you create a life and then just opt out? I don't know, Ava said quietly, but I know that her loss is my gain. If she hadn't left, you wouldn't have been at that beach. That wind wouldn't have blown, and I'd still be alone in my empty condo convincing myself I was happy. Do you ever think about having kids? Ryan asked, or is it too late for that conversation? Ava was quiet for a long moment. I never thought I wanted them. I told myself I was too focused on my career, too selfish, too damaged by my own childhood. But being with Mia, I'm starting to understand what I was really afraid of. Not that I'd be a bad mother, but that I'd repeat my father's mistakes, work too much, be too absent, sacrifice connection for achievement. You wouldn't do that, Ryan said firmly. You're already choosing differently. Every time you leave work early, every time you prioritize people over productivity, you're breaking that pattern. Maybe, Ava said, or maybe I'm just borrowing someone else's family and pretending I know how to be part of it. You're not borrowing, Ava. You're building. With us. And yeah, it's scary and uncertain, but that's what makes it real. They checked into the hotel, separate rooms because propriety still mattered in some contexts, and spent the evening doing final presentation prep in Ryan's room. At 10, Ava stood to leave, and Ryan caught her hand. Stay, he said. Not for anything inappropriate. Just stay. I sleep better when you're here. So Ava stayed, curled up next to him on top of the covers, both of them fully clothed, holding hands in the dark and talking until they drifted off. Ryan woke at 3 a.m. to find her head on his shoulder, her breathing deep and even, and felt a peace so profound it almost hurt. The presentation the next morning was flawless. Ryan and Ava moved through it like a perfectly choreographed dance. He handled the operational details and cultural assessment. She managed the strategic vision and financial projections. The Meridian board asked tough questions, and they answered with confidence and precision. By the time they finished, the CEO was smiling. This is exactly what we need, he said, shaking both their hands. You two make an impressive team. When can you start implementation? In the car on the way home, Ava couldn't stop smiling. We did it. Ryan, we actually did it. This is the biggest account I've landed in 3 years, and you were incredible up there. You commanded that room like you've been doing it for decades. I had a good partner, Ryan said, and an excellent teacher. I couldn't have done it without you. Adventure partners, Ava said, echoing Mia's words. We make a good team. In business and in life, Ryan agreed, reaching over to take her hand. They got back to the city at 5, and Ryan immediately picked up Mia from Mrs. Chen's. His daughter launched herself at him, then spotted Ava getting out of her car and ran to her too. Ava, you're back. Did you do good at the work thing? Daddy said you were going to impress important people. We did very good, Ava said, scooping Mia up. We impressed them so much they want us to help them for a whole 6 months. That's great. Can we celebrate? Can we go to the beach? Ryan checked his watch. It's almost 6, sweetie. Maybe tomorrow. Actually, Ava said, I have a better idea. What if we celebrate at my place? I have the ingredients for homemade pizza, and Mia could teach me how to make that dragon she's always talking about. And then maybe Ryan could stay over, in the guest room, and tomorrow we could all go to the beach together, like a family weekend. Mia's eyes went wide. Really? A whole weekend together? Really? Ava confirmed, looking at Ryan for approval. If your dad says it's okay. Ryan felt emotion tighten his chest. This was it. The moment where casual dating became something more, where separate lives began to merge, where family stopped being just him and Mia and started including someone new. It was terrifying and perfect. I think that sounds amazing, Ryan said. They spent the evening at Ava's condo making pizza from scratch, flour everywhere, Mia's laughter echoing through spaces that had been silent for too long. They ate on the floor because Mia insisted it was more fun that way. They watched a movie curled up on the couch, Mia wedged between them, falling asleep halfway through with her head on Ava's lap. Ryan carried his daughter to Ava's guest room, the one that was slowly accumulating Mia's drawings, and a few spare clothes and a stuffed animal that had been accidentally left behind on a previous visit. He tucked her in, kissed her forehead, and found Ava watching from the doorway with an expression so tender it made his breath catch. This could be real, Ava whispered as they retreated to the living room. This could be our life. The three of us, building something together. It already is real, Ryan said, pulling her close. Every moment we've shared, every castle we've built, every time you've chosen us, it's all real. This is just us deciding to make it permanent. I'm not good at permanent, Ava admitted, her face pressed against his chest. I'm good at temporary, at keeping people at arm's length, at protecting myself from loss. What if I mess this up? What if I revert to the Ice Queen and push you both away? Then we'll remind you who you really are. We'll build sandcastles and eat imperfect spaghetti and show you that love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Ava pulled back to look at him, tears threatening at the corners of her eyes. I love you. I'm terrified to say it, but I do. I love you and I love Mia, and I want this life we're building. I love you too, Ryan said, and kissed her like he'd been wanting to all day, deeply, thoroughly, without reservation. I think I started falling the moment that wind blew and our eyes met, and I saw past the Ice Queen to the woman underneath. I just didn't know it yet. They stayed up late talking about the future, making plans that felt both impossible and inevitable. Ava wanted to make Fridays a permanent early day so she could always meet them at the park. Ryan suggested she officially meet Mrs. Chen and some of his other friends, integrating their social circles. They discussed how to handle the office gossip, how to maintain professional boundaries while being honest about their relationship. We'll need to file paperwork with HR, Ava said. Disclosure of relationship, potential conflict of interest documentation. I'll make sure you're assigned to other supervisors for performance reviews to maintain objectivity. That sounds complicated, Ryan observed. It is, but you're worth complicated. This is worth protecting. They fell asleep on Ava's couch, wrapped around each other, and woke to Mia standing over them with a mischievous grin. Are you two married now? Mia asked with the bluntness of childhood. Not yet, Ava said, pulling Mia up between them. But maybe someday if your dad asks me nicely and you approve the dragon-inclusive ceremony. I approve everything, Mia declared. Can we go to the beach now? Please, please, please. So they went to the beach, the three of them, just like that first accidental encounter 6 weeks ago. But this time, everything was different. This time, Ryan reached for Ava's hand without hesitation. This time, when they built castles, they built them as a family. This time, when the wind blew, it didn't reveal anything unexpected. It just carried the sound of their laughter across the sand. They built the biggest castle yet, a sprawling kingdom with multiple towers, elaborate defenses, and a dragon made from seaweed that Mia declared the royal protector. Other beachgoers stopped to watch, impressed by their construction. One older woman commented, "You have a beautiful family." Ryan opened his mouth to correct her, to explain that Ava wasn't Mia's mother, that this was new and undefined and complicated. But then he saw the way Ava was looking at Mia, the way she was patiently explaining structural engineering principles to a 6-year-old, the way she fit so perfectly into the spaces Jennifer had left empty. And he realized the woman was right. "Thank you," he said simply. "We really do." As the sun started to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they sat on their blanket watching the waves. Mia was building a smaller castle off to the side, giving the adults a rare moment of peace. 6 weeks ago, I was standing right here having the most humiliating moment of my life, Ava said quietly. I wanted to disappear. I was sure I'd just destroyed my professional reputation and traumatized a poor employee who'd had the misfortune of seeing his boss topless. 6 weeks ago, I was standing right here convinced my career was over, Ryan added, and I thought there was no way to come back from that level of awkwardness. I was already planning my resignation letter. And now? Ava asked. Now I'm grateful for that wind, for your terrible timing with beach wraps, for every impossible coincidence that led to this moment. Ryan turned to face her, taking both her hands. I spent 2 years convinced I'd used up my chance at happiness, that I'd failed at love, and the best I could do was not screw up fatherhood. But you showed me that second chances exist, that it's possible to build something new from the ruins of what came before. You showed me that I don't have to choose between success and connection, Ava said, that I can be both strong and soft, both accomplished and vulnerable. That family isn't something you're born into. It's something you build, one sandcastle at a time. Mia ran back over, breathless and covered in sand. Look, I made a baby castle for when you two get married and have a baby, because that's what happens in stories. People fall in love and get married and have babies and live happily ever after. Ryan and Ava looked at each other, a whole conversation happening in that glance. They hadn't talked about marriage yet, not seriously, hadn't discussed babies or permanent futures or any of the big scary questions. But sitting there on the beach where it had all begun, with Mia looking at them with such hope and certainty, those questions didn't seem scary anymore. They seemed like possibilities, like promises waiting to be made. What do you think? Ava asked quietly, just for Ryan. Could you see that? A future with all of it? Marriage? Maybe another kid? Building a real family together? I can see it, Ryan said, his voice thick with emotion. I can see all of it. You, me, Mia, maybe a sibling for her down the road. Sunday mornings making pancakes, arguments about whose turn it is to do dishes, school plays and science fairs and teenage drama, all the messy, complicated, beautiful reality of building a life together. I want that, Ava whispered. All of it. The mess and the beauty and the everyday moments that become the story of our lives. Then let's do it, Ryan said. Not today, not this moment, but soon. Let's make this official. Let's build something that lasts. They sealed it with a kiss, soft and sweet and full of promise, while Mia cheered in the background and the sun set over the ocean. It wasn't a proposal, not yet, but it was a commitment, a decision to step forward together into whatever came next. 3 months later, on a cool November morning, Ryan found a small wrapped box on his desk at work. Inside was a delicate glass sandcastle, perfectly crafted, catching the light in rainbow prisms. The note read, "Some structures are worth building carefully, and some are worth building forever. Will you build with me?" A. Ryan's hands shook as he read it. This was it. Ava was proposing. In her own way, with her own timing, she was asking him to make permanent what they'd been building since that accidental moment on the beach. He found her in her office, nervous energy radiating from her usually composed frame. She stood as he entered, and he could see the vulnerability in her eyes, the fear that he might say no. Yes, Ryan said before she could speak. Whatever the question is, the answer is yes. Yes to building a life together. Yes to being your adventure partner forever. Yes to teaching you how to be messy and human and imperfect. Yes to all of it. Ava's face transformed, relief and joy washing over her. I was terrified you'd think it was too fast, that I'd scared you off. You couldn't scare me off if you tried, Ryan said, crossing the room to pull her into his arms. I've been ready for this since the moment you sat in the sand and took my daughter seriously, since you chose people over profit, since you let yourself be vulnerable enough to show me who you really are. They kissed in her office, not caring who might see, not caring about propriety or professional boundaries. They were building something real, something that mattered more than appearances or corporate policy. That evening, they told Mia together, kneeling in front of her in Ryan's living room. Ava presented her with a small box containing a silver necklace with a dragon charm. Mia, Ava said, her voice steady despite the emotion Ryan could see in her eyes, I love your dad very much, and I love you very much. I'm asking him to marry me, but I'm also asking you. I want to be part of your family officially. I'll never try to replace your mother, but I'd like to be someone you can count on. Someone who shows up and builds castles and loves you exactly as you are. Is that okay with you? Mia looked at the necklace, then at Ava, then at Ryan. Her little face was serious, processing this big grown-up moment. Then she smiled, that gap-toothed grin that lit up Ryan's entire world. It's very okay, Mia said solemnly. But I have rules. You have to come to all my school stuff, and we have to go to the beach every Saturday forever. And when you and Daddy argue, you have to make up before bedtime because that's what families do. And you have to let me help plan the wedding because I have very good ideas about dragons. Ava laughed through her tears. I accept all your rules, every single one. Good. Mia threw her arms around Ava's neck. Welcome to the family. You're going to be the best stepmom ever. The wedding happened 6 months later, in spring, on the same beach where it had all begun. It was small, just close friends, a few key colleagues, Mrs. Chen crying in the front row, and an officiant who was surprisingly accommodating about incorporating dragon imagery into the ceremony. Mia served as both flower girl and ring bearer, wearing a purple dress with sparkly dragons and taking her duties very seriously. Ryan stood at the makeshift altar, really just a wooden arch decorated with shells and driftwood, watching Ava walk toward him across the sand. She wore a simple white dress that moved with the ocean breeze, her hair down, flowers woven through it. She looked nothing like the Ice Queen who terrified him a year ago. She looked warm and real and absolutely beautiful. Hi, she said when she reached him, her voice soft. Hi, he replied, taking her hands. You look amazing. You clean up pretty well yourself? The officiant cleared his throat. Shall we begin? They exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promises about building castles and accepting imperfection and showing up for each other through the mess of real life. When the officiant asked for the rings, Mia stepped forward with a dramatic flourish, presenting them with the gravity of someone handling the crown jewels. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the officiant said. You may kiss your bride. Ryan pulled Ava close and kissed her while their small gathering cheered, while Mia jumped up and down with excitement, while the waves crashed behind them in perfect soundtrack to this moment of beginning. Mrs. Sterling Cole, Ryan murmured against her lips. Or Mrs. Cole Sterling, Ava countered. We never did decide. How about just Ava and Ryan, he suggested. Two people who accidentally found each other and decided to build something beautiful. I like that, Ava said, and kissed him again. The reception was a beach picnic, casual and joyful, everyone eating with their feet in the sand. Marcus gave a speech about how he'd never believed in miracles until he saw the Ice Queen learn to smile, Mrs. Chen shared stories about watching Ryan struggle through early single parenthood and how proud she was to see him find happiness. Mia insisted on making her own toast, which consisted mostly of facts about dragons, but ended with, I love my dad, and I love my Ava, and I'm glad the wind blew that day. As the sun set and the party wound down, Ryan, Ava, and Mia walked along the water's edge. Mia ran ahead, chasing waves, while the adults followed hand in hand. A year ago, I stood right here having the worst moment of my life, Ava said, echoing her words from months earlier, and it turned into the best thing that ever happened to me. Funny how that works, Ryan said. How the moments that feel like endings can actually be beginnings. How accidents can become destiny. Do you believe in destiny? Ava asked. That we were somehow meant to be at this beach on this day, that the wind was supposed to blow, That everything happened exactly as it should? Ryan thought about it, watching his daughter dance in the surf, feeling his wife's hand in his. I don't know if I believe in destiny, but I believe in choice. Every day since that beach day, we've chosen each other. We've chosen to be vulnerable, to take risks, to build something real. That's not destiny. That's something better. That's two broken people deciding to heal together. And one amazing little girl who knew exactly what we needed before we did, Ava added, watching Mia with such obvious love it made Ryan's chest ache. And one amazing little girl, he agreed. They stood there as the sun painted the sky in impossible colors, watching their daughter play, feeling the solid reality of their joined hands, breathing in the salt air that had witnessed their beginning. The beach that had seen an accidental encounter now held their wedding memories. The sand that had hosted their first tentative castle building now bore witness to their promises of forever. Should we build one more castle? Ava suggested. For old time's sake? For new time's sake, Ryan corrected. For all the times to come. So they did, the three of them, building in the fading light. It was lopsided and imperfect, made with tired hands and happy hearts. It wouldn't last, the tide would claim it by morning. But that was okay, that was the point. Some structures didn't need to be permanent to be meaningful. Some castles existed just for the joy of building them together. Mia placed a shell on the highest tower, the same iridescent piece she'd found on their first beach day, preserved through all these months. This is our family castle, she declared. It represents us. Imperfect but standing, Ryan said. Built with love, Ava added. And protected by dragons. Mia finished, placing her seaweed dragon figure in a position of honor. They took a photo, the three of them with their castle, the setting sun backlighting everything in gold. Years from now, this would be one of those pictures that captured a perfect moment, the joy, the love, the sense of having found exactly where they belonged. As they packed up their things and headed to the parking lot, Mia between them holding both their hands, Ryan thought about that morning a year ago, how he'd been drowning in responsibility and loneliness, convinced the best he could hope for was survival. How one gust of wind, one moment of mortification, one accidental glance had changed everything. The Ice Queen had melted. The struggling single dad had found partnership. The lonely little girl had gained someone who chose her every single day. And it had all started with the worst possible beginning, with embarrassment and awkwardness and the kind of moment you'd normally want to forget. But Ryan would never forget it. Never forget the way Ava's eyes had met his in that split second of horror. Never forget how that terrible moment had cracked open possibilities he'd never imagined. Never forget how the messiest beginnings sometimes became the most beautiful stories. As they drove home, Mia already asleep in the back seat, Ava reached over and took Ryan's hand. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For seeing past the Ice Queen. For giving me a chance to be someone different. For your daughter, who taught me how to build castles and mean it. For this life we're making together." "Thank you for staying that day," Ryan replied. "For not running away after the wind incident. For building that first castle with us. For every choice since then that brought us here." "Where would we be if you hadn't been at that beach that day?" Ava wondered. "You'd still be in your empty condo. I'd still be drowning in single parenthood. We'd both be surviving, but not really living." Ryan squeezed her hand. "But we were at that beach. The wind did blow, and everything changed." "Everything changed," Ava agreed. They drove through the Florida night, heading home. Not to separate spaces anymore, but to the house they'd just bought together. The one with a room for Mia, a home office they'd share, and enough space for all the messy, beautiful reality of their combined lives. The one with dragon drawings on the refrigerator and sand tracked through the hallway and the constant chaos of being a family. The one that was imperfect and loud and absolutely perfect. Behind them, the beach stretched empty under the stars, waves erasing the castle they'd built. But tomorrow, or next Saturday, or whenever the wind was right, they'd come back and build again. Because that's what families did. They built and rebuilt, over and over, finding joy in the impermanence, meaning in the process, love in every grain of sand placed with intention. The Ice Queen had learned to melt. The single dad had found partnership. The little girl had gained a family built on choice and love and the magical accident of being in the right place at exactly the right moment. And sometimes, on quiet evenings, when Ava stood at their bedroom window looking out at the city, she'd think about that gust of wind that had changed everything. That moment of vulnerability that had cracked open her carefully controlled world. That accidental beginning that had led to this intentional, chosen, forever kind of love. The wind had blown. Their eyes had met. And two lives that had been running parallel, never meant to intersect, had collided in the most unlikely way. Sometimes the wind knows exactly what it's doing. Sometimes the messiest moments create space for the most beautiful transformations. Sometimes love arrives exactly when you're not looking for it, wearing the most unexpected face, bringing with it not just romance, but healing and wholeness, and the reminder that it's never too late to start building something new. And sometimes, a little girl's certainty that adults are making everything too complicated is exactly right. Sometimes the rules are simple. If you like someone and they like you, you should be friends. And if you're very lucky, those friendships become families. Those families become home. And that home becomes the foundation for every beautiful thing you'll build together. The castle on the beach was gone, claimed by the tide as all temporary structures must be. But the kingdom they'd built, in their hearts, in their home, in their daily choice to show up for each other, that was permanent, that was real, that would last. And it had all started with one impossible, mortifying, absolutely perfect accident on a beach in Florida, when the wind blew and everything changed, the end and the beginning.